Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to, well, whether it's you with us on SimSpeed TV or the Motorsport Australia pages or with ANZ Series. But it's Saturday night once again, and after a week off for, well, the Australian Grand Prix one, so I'd say, but also part of the schedule for this championship, we're back for the third round of the ANZ Series GT3 National Championship in 2024. And continuing on our venture through Europe, it is, though, our final time at a European circuit for this schedule. We come to the Hockenheim ring for tonight's racing here. My name is Danny Amon, once again on commentary. Unfortunately, not joined by Aaron Obersteller from ANZ Series, as we are going to have for the rest of the season, bringing fellow SimSpeed commentator Scott Rankin to the box to fill in this evening with Jay Kennedy on the cameras as usual. And, well, Scott, you've been busy with a few things during the weekend, commentary elsewhere, but hopefully you've had a chance to get up to speed with the GT3 National Championship here, as we're just waiting on the green flag, which has been given right now for qualifying. The drivers will be heading out to get going in a moment's time. But yeah, looking to see how drivers continue here in the end of the opening third of this new GT3 Championship this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple to say that the name Cody Deeth, and Cody Deeth is on everyone's lips as we come into Hockenheim here tonight. It's pretty bog standard, you know. He's been performing at the top end of town, and he's been doing so for a long period of time. I think something that can't be understated is perhaps that influence that he received at the Ferrari Young Driver Academy in the trip over into Asia as well. Like that's a huge opportunity. I mean, we knew he was talented, we knew he was quick. I didn't expect him to be dominating like he has been, though. Normally you see a little bit of shake up, a little bit of a moving around. Could the Hockenheim ring start things off? And the main reason I'm here is it's dance night. I want to see some rear ends and some GT3 cars dancing around.
Indeed. Well, speaking of, as I said, gym tracks and such, here we are in Europe for the final time for this season. We head off to the Hockenheim ring, Baden-Württemberg in Germany here, in this western side of the country, then just south of Frankfurt, as we zoom in to the circuit itself here. And yeah, fantastic history at this venue, and we can just see here from the Google Earth shot the remnants of the old circuit there looping out into the forest, but of course these days now contained to this modern Grand Prix configuration that we have here. Although still plenty of history with everything from the Mobile 1 curve through to Turn 1, more or less, existing as it did since the mid-1960s or so, although changes to safety and reprofiling have occurred over time. Obviously, the new stuff comes from Turn 2 all the way through to the hairpin at Turn 6, then you sort of basically begin to rejoin the existing track up at the hairpin there.
Can I just say, I thoroughly miss the old layout, the one that used to go off into the forest. It was actually one of my favorite tracks the world over, was the old Hockenheim ring layout. Ah, well, you know, you get a little bit annoyed, things change as they do, but yeah, that used to be a very, very fond memories of doing a ton of laps on it. on different sim racing platforms as well. And yeah, I mean, it's a good opportunity tonight to sort of zero in, to focus in. There's been a raft of team changes happening right throughout the week as well. So, this is realistically everyone's first real opportunity to sit down and shake out what's in the water and what's changed for a number of drivers.
Yeah, indeed. We'll get to those in just a second. Probably bring the drivers up on screen. But yeah, qualifying now underway with a reduced field tonight due to the fact that things are a little quiet thanks to a certain Easter holiday weekend that we're on right now. We don't have as many drivers as we usually would expect, but nevertheless, we'll look forward to seeing how we go tonight. And speaking of things, here's how the championship stands out with, 4 perfect races so far this season. I believe also a couple of points in qualifying too. Cody Deeth sits on top with the maximum possible 610 points coming into tonight. Gianni Lutsu was in behind him there in the standings, but unfortunately tonight will be a no-show for Gianni, so we'll see the doing okay, or now, as I should say, one of the first things to probably point out, might also be technically classifying him as a Vanillion Esports driver there, which will probably see him slip behind Zach Rattray-White at this time, as well as Jamie Christensen, who are both in attendance this evening, so they should end up going up the order. But Matthew Dench, also another driver away tonight, unfortunately, so it is a bit of a sort of figure out who's here, who's not, and actually off the top 10, it's Deeth, Rattray-White, Christensen, Dylan Burst there in P6. I believe that's about it, actually. Yeah, everyone else here on the list, as far as I can see with a quick glance to the names, Scott, unfortunately not with us this evening for this third round of the championship.
Yeah, but have a look at the difference in terms of points. I mean, it's easy to sit here and say, he's dominated every round, he's ticked every single box as far as we've gone, but that doesn't really tell the story. That's 220-ish points, in the lead after 2 rounds. That says, firm grip. He's here, he's ticking every box yet again. But he's been consistent, he's been consistently quick, and he stayed free of the drama. And boy, drama in GT3 racing, it tends to kick off when you get that little bit of that dirty air. It's sometimes too easy to just sort of skip down the road and look clean in front, but I expect a little bit more of that here tonight. That dirty air plays such a big factor at Hockenheim, but overtaking zones is the key here.
Yeah, it certainly will be, you're not wrong. Of course, with long straights, tight braking markers, plenty of opportunity to get things done here tonight. Looking at the weather in session so far this evening for us. It's this afternoon for the drivers though in the sim, and you can see it's a bit cloudy and a bit foggy here at this stage today. And I did see in one of the YouTube chats, our SimSpeed YouTube chat, looking like some possible rain. I can tell you at the moment, I'm not seeing any forecasted rain this evening, so we're going to have to wait a little longer for that one. And the information that we were given a while back is expect to see some showers in Sebring. And that will be where the action sort of gets interesting. But nevertheless, look forward to seeing how we go here tonight at the Hockenheim Ring. And with the reduced field of drivers, we are just doing a single group in qualifying, so they're getting about 30 minutes to run this one out here tonight, Scott, and then into our usual 15-minute sprint, 45-minute feature, and an expected pit stop thanks to the fuel tank restriction that has been set via the Hymo fixed setups, as well as fuel tank capacity in Stim. And once again, seeing how we go with a balanced performance that has been tuned via the setup rather than any of the ballast metrics in game. And once again, confirming there is your live radar at this stage on screen as well. And it is clear for now, and apparently for the next couple of hours should stay clear as well.
Yeah, but it's, it's one of the things that, look, I'm going to say a couple of things from a league admin's point of view, different tools. We used to see probably the best fixed league in Australia. It used to be OzPass in terms of things. And one of they tuned and balanced things in different sort of ways that tried to stay towards the iRacing sets. Hymo sets, obviously a little bit more grip, give you that opportunity. It also gives you a really, really good opportunity to test out the Hymo sets. I've actually been running on them pretty exclusively in terms of recent history as I get back involved into the sim racing world. So I'm very happy and very confident from that perspective, but still, weight and power is still another metric that you can use. Yeah, sure, they'll probably stick to that balance side of things, but some weeks where you just can't get it 100% right, you might add 5 kilos, you might have 10 kilos. It's just another tweak, another way that you can sort of try and keep it as even as you possibly said. And Cody Deeth goes nice and quick here, straight to the top of the time trap.
Yeah, that he does. He's the only driver to get into under the 138.0 bracket at this stage as well. So good to see there for Cody. It took him a couple of minutes to get it in, but doing all right there with after a week off back in his Lamborghini here tonight. As checking in with two of our Vermilion drivers. One of them, Jacob O'Reilly here that we're on board with right now, has been with Vermilion since this season got underway. But driving behind, Teo Sorono, one of the drivers joining Vermilion this week after what I have to say has been basically the total and utter annihilation of what was the Altus Australia driver lineup. Haven't had a chance to, well, haven't spoken to any of the drivers so far. So, or say Mike Taliancic, former team manager. I shouldn't say former because I do believe that technically he might still be with the team. But big shift there after that roster originally picked up by Altus, the organisation in general, at the late last year, Scott, and brought under this new Altus Australia banner after they basically all came across from Pursuit Sim Racing, and now basically all effectively moving over as one again here now to Vermilion. So basically the beginnings of what might be the next big super team in a sense in terms of sheer driver count in Australia, given that they have, I believe it's 28 drivers currently named under the Vermilion Motorsports roster and an additional 14 representing the Vermilion Esports brand, which apparently will function as a sub-team for various purposes in this year at least. And as I've heard, including on a certain podcast involving yourself, Scott, certainly aspirations for them to be able to keep that going well beyond this year into next at the very least.
Yeah, look, it's one of those curious things. It comes and it goes, and I think there's two sort of mindsets and two ways you can really think about it. If you think about it from a real-world motorsport perspective, the silly season tends to happen at the end of the year, right? You've got all your drivers jumping around, but the contract works in place well and truly before that. With sim racing and with an esports background and backdrop, as we're seeing some cars just sort of jump right a bit, Sorono's still not set a valid lap time in that car as well, so keep half an eye on that. But as things sort of currently sit, you know, it's not really real world. Things shift around a little bit more quickly, and one of the reasons for that is contracts. Contracts tend to be shorter, and the esports world is just a little bit more unstable in terms of things. Partnerships build up, break down a lot quicker. Generally, when you're spending you're spending a little bit more time on the sim together, doing things far more regularly than you are in a real world contract. You've got some time away, you don't have to see specific people at specific times. Budgets is obviously a big key. You've got to commit long term to a budget from a real world racing perspective. What that allows within an esports mindset, you know, everything can break down, you can move away, you know, you just no longer enjoy hanging around with a group of people. One of the keys I think about the relationships and what's developed is that there's clearly a core group of drivers that are enjoying driving together. They're happy with the way things are working and they want to continue that arrangement just under a different heading. Interesting to know. There'll be some pressure. I definitely feel there'll be some pressure to perform because obviously you don't make that commitment, jump around. How long they'll expect before they see themselves back at the top of the roster? That's up to them. But I want to see some things, and one of the other big things that was noted was an international interest and expansion. There's a couple drivers on that team that I would absolutely love to see on an international stage, looking at Pesk. So that's definitely worthwhile keeping in the back of your mind.
I mean, yeah, it certainly is. If they can be the next team that goes from running at Australian level, or in the Australian community when it comes to sim racing events and competitions, and making a step to the big time, which, to be honest, we haven't really seen since, at least in my memory, Altus Esports basically transitioning from Australian sim racing to the international scene. There were teams that did it beforehand. Unfortunately, my memory of pre-2020 is basically non-existent because I really wasn't actually active on iRacing before 2020, but I'm told the Evolution Racing team at one stage certainly had a strong international presence before. Well, actually, in that case, I think it was part of things where Altus Esports was then formed out of ERT rosters and drivers moved around and changed and such. That certainly all that was all a big thing back in the day before I was around to really understand much of it there. But nevertheless, yeah, we'll see now whether Vermilion can take the fight to the world, as it were, and be the next representatives for Australia on that stage. And yeah, as you said, drivers who have suggested at times they want to go for a crack at something global, see if they can make that work for them, as we're only about a third of the way through qualifying. We've got a fair bit we're going to have to talk about here, it seems, or at least maybe start focusing on what's happening on track. So far, looking pretty good with 16 drivers out of our 17 who have time set inside of a second. We're only waiting on Jamie Christensen and Teo Sorono to get valid times on the board. So we're now right here with Sam Sproul for Blackout OPR, looking to improve on a P6 position at the moment. This is looking good, and it's going to be P7 now after Christensen has indeed gotten the time on the board. That moves him into that, and almost, but not quite for Sprout. That will have to be a reset and try again there.
Yeah, attempts to improve it. And the last point I sort of want to make on that is if it gets stagnant, it's actually incredibly unhealthy for an esports environment. It's very, very good for a fan base when you see people jumping around like this. And you were like, could you imagine if Max Verstappen drives for Red Bull for the next 20 years and that's all he does and they win all 20 of those? I think we'd all be bored of that. So it's definitely very, very important. Issues for Stuart Ellis at the moment. I wonder whether or not this is a hardware failure. He's got a wheel, he's got power. No, he's just looking for a hole in traffic.
Yeah, indeed. Checking here with a few more drivers on circuit. That there, I believe, was Stuart Ellis, and if I'm not mistaken, yep, following Danny Davidson around the last couple of turns. Rattray White next across the line here, looking to go better than third. Does go to a 38.1. Does it count? It does. And it will displace the Evolution Racing team number 8 of Lachlan Capel back to P3 at this time, as Deeth, in the meantime, has improved to a 137.7. So still the only driver under that 138 marker, as we wait to see if the other drivers behind can catch him. But despite his concerns about this car's long run pace, continuing to show it certainly is fast over one lap here on these setups that the drivers are working with for this series.
I wonder whether or not there's been some fine tuning done to that Lamborghini setup to try and throw some sandbags in the back end of the Cody Deeth machine, because he's certainly one of the only guys that's championing the Lamborghini as a whole, and it's sort of been a car that's been fading. But what that just says is, you know, he's strong enough in it, he's capable of it. It's coincidentally, I actually remember there was a conversation with Shane Van Gisbergen, who was running an Ozpass at the time. And one of the reasons they actually moved away from using a weighted system to balance the cars was because the Lamborghini actually got better when you put more weight in it. It stabilized the car in the mid-corner on fixed setups. On the iRacing fixed setups, I should clarify as well.
Well, in saying that, I think that's a thing that would apply to any car, well, regardless of setup, it would apply to the car. I think that's an inherent sort of fact of the system. And yeah, it is just this funny thing. I mean, yeah, as we said, balance performance is one of the things that we have some tools available to us in iRacing to fiddle with it, but we don't have a lot of adjustments. So yeah, it's a novel approach this year, that the setup-based BOP. It's worked out reasonably well so far. In saying that, there has been a lot of popularity for specific car manufacturers and makes, Ferraris, which have been particularly favoured by the Vermilion drivers and that team there. But solid Porsche representation, decent amount of Audis in the field as well. And then Lamborghini, basically an outlier. Jet Maloney not here tonight, but he's been one of the few drivers in the Mercedes AMG GT3 as well. And I think we've had maybe, I don't even know if we've even had a BMW at a way. Let's go back. Actually, let's go check the previous results and confirm that one before I throw out any more names and information there.
Yeah, triple check your information. Yeah, anyway, in the meantime, like, it's a really exciting time for GT3, I think, world over. You know, one of the other aspects is we're going to see Mariano Morella finish his current lap. Doesn't quite improve, only a tenth slower, so, you know, this could be it. That might have been his prep lap, might have got the tyres where he exactly wants them, and now he'll be able to press on from here. I know support for Danny Davison. He's on a lap towards the tail end of the field at the moment, see if he can improve, nudge himself a little bit further up. But, you know, one of the key things to sort of remember and keep in the back of your mind is, from a GT3 perspective and indeed sports car racing in general, is that we have a few more options available to us to tweaking the balance of performance. They tend to stay away from individual car setup characteristics. Sometimes they'll tinker with the ride height, the front and the rear, create a little bit of things that they can do with the rake, or just the minimum ride heights overall. But they tend to look quite heavily at not just engine mappings and the engine mappings that are available to them. That's one of the ways they can put some balance of performance into these machines. Obviously no longer available in the GT3 class in iRacing. Restrictors, both on the intakes, you know, turbo pressures, all bits and pieces like that, and RPMs as well as one of the way. Aero limits, what they can do with the front splitter, whether or not there needs to be chalking or something to prevent more downforce, or indeed add more downforce to the front of the cars. Yeah, and like we said, intakes as well, air restrictors, both on the vents they're actually taking in. Because remember, from a V8 supercar perspective, look at the difference just putting some extra chocks in the front end of the Mustang's done to help improve that car's aero performance as it currently stands. And then from a NASCAR perspective, one of the biggest things that you used to be able to do within iRacing to add downforce to the front end of the NASCARs from a qualifying perspective was just add a whole bunch of tape, just chunk, made more airflow over the splitter and around the splitter, generating more downforce. So, you know, all the different little bells and whistles that you can play around with that don't necessarily have on iRacing.
Indeed, yeah.
Interesting to talk about.
Yeah, and also the fact that we're looking forward to seeing more GT3 cars join the roster, apparently, on iRacing as we continue to see the platform expand and continue to get new GT3 cars in, such as, the Mustang, and we're hoping to see the Corvette C8R now that it's in the Z06 GT3 trim over in the States. As we see here, Stuart Ellis, unfortunately, didn't improve on that last lap, as what sheer drivers going on their laps. It's just Sam Sproul. What have you got for me, though?
Dan, about the Aston Martin coming to iRacing?
Unfortunately, I'm a little out of the loop of users. Oh, Sproul's on a lap here, and that's not ideal. Jake O'Reilly and Brad Newman, I think it was, just literally side by side as he came up behind them. And, abandons the run immediately. So that has not done him any favours, that's for sure. As he'll pull the 606 aside once more. Just under halfway left in the session. As this is what it looked like. Here we go. On board with O'Reilly here. As the headlight flashes, he comes through, and it's not great, really. When you look at it from that angle there, Scott, O'Reilly kind of tracking the racing line when he really needed to pull hard right and move aside. Probably is possibly the best course of action there, although split seconds really needed in that instance to be able to respond in time.
That's the key. Yeah, split seconds. He had mere moments to make that decision and just made the wrong one. That's, I don't think there's a lot in that. Has it ruined Sproul's lap? Yeah, it probably has, but at the same time, there's still a significant chunk of the session left to go here. That timer that we're watching on the top left, I think it's actually from about the 33rd minute mark. So we'll have about, when that clock gets to 3 minutes to go, I think that'll be the end of the session. So that gives us enough time for everyone to finish the lap that they're on before the session ticks over to our race session as well. So about 10 minutes left on quali.
Well, so with the session timer, it starts when the session begins and it counts down to the end of the session. That can't be manipulated by Bruce J. So there is the thing there. The drivers here tonight actually 35-minute session, but they were held for a couple of minutes before they rolled out. Due to the fact we do have two races in the one server, it will be a hard cut from the end of this qual session to the grid for race number 1, the sprint or the heat, whatever you want to call it, for that opening 15 minutes. And we'll see. I think drivers here, they'll get the chance to run all the way to the end. So just over 30 minutes plus a lap. They got a little extra time as Christensen improves to a 38.0 and jumps up quite nicely now into P3. Not too far behind Dylan Burst and just ahead of teammate Rattray White. It's pushing Lachlan Capel down the order here in this first of our Porsche 911 GT3Rs as he's looking to now get another time on the board. By the way, he's attacking into the arena complex here on this lap.
Yep, see if he can improve. It's going to be tight. He's certainly kicking on with the lap. You'd know by about now whether or not it was going to be a good one, and definitely kicking it on. Big debate with Hockenheim is that sausage curb on the outside of the second to last corner. And using all the curbs, it's about artfulness. It's about using every little bit of track limits that's available to you. Capel puts the lap in and does improve the lap, but will not improve the position. Oh no, it jumps ahead of Christensen, so takes third spot back.
Yeah, he jumped up from 5th to 3rd with that one there, getting ahead of Rattray White and Christensen both, and only just behind Dylan Burst, as I think I've just seen either Sam Sproul or Simon. No, that might be... Actually, I think that was Sam Sproul. Actually, he might have just snuck that one in there, unless he's been in the pits for a while. Apologies if that was. Yeah, no, my apologies. Someone moved up. Don't quite know who it was. It was in around the back of the top 10. It might have been Marino Morella who actually did that one there. Apologies. So number 7 up to P7. That's who shuffled their way up the order as one of our Audi R8 GT3s here. Simon Cox, a new Evo 2 trim, which has been, well, up until the end of last year, had been eagerly awaited in this category. He'll see here, takes his time, sets it up. He's got a giant gap behind, so unlike what we saw with O'Reilly and Newman and who was a part of me, Sprout. No rush to get this one started here, Scott, and allows him to wind up for this lap around the Hockenheim ring here in qualifying.
A really, really good opportunity to take a ride on board with this one as well. Down to turn 1, you do want to kind of try and, yeah, he's already picked up an off track, so that lap's not going to count straight away. So it's about making sure that you're accurate at turn 1. You want to be as close to that sausage curb on the right-hand side without touching it as possible. Keep the wheels on the ground, flow it all the way out. This will give us a slower look at what the lap looks like, a prep lap in terms of the tyres. You can just about full throttle the left-hand kink there if you've got the apex right at turn 2. So it's brake it in, pick up the throttle nice and early, and it's down through Parabolica. It's a straight, but it's not a straight. It's a long sweeping corner, and then the biggest braking zone on the track. The opportunity for crossover moves to go deep, prop somebody up on the outside. There's so many different games that you can play at this hairpin. Really, really important to make sure that you're getting yourself in that, but at the same time, you can go side by side through the hairpin. Got to get good drive out of there and down back into the arena section.
Oh yeah, 100%. The whole game of, yeah, go up the inside. Can you get that car in from wide enough to actually open your exit up? And if you're fighting someone, how well are they able to hang it around the outside to then basically force you onto the tighter exit and therefore compromise your run out of the turn? So stuff like that there, certainly important. As Stuart Ellis has just jumped up into P7, displacing Morella from that position. So another Porsche making their way into the top 10. In fact, our 7 through 10 all occupied by Porsche 911s at this stage in the field. Dylan Burse coming around, apparently. Yeah, he's got a PB middle sector in this one, apparently, according to my timing, as he crosses the line. And he will join Cody Death in the 1 minute 37 bracket, but he's still a 10th and change behind, but at least cuts down the margin to that P1 time. But Eclipse, once again, putting well, looking like it's going to be a strong show from these two drivers again. They basically locked out the top 2 at the Nürburgring for the opening round of the season, and I still believe Burse is recovering from doing some, well, breaking his collarbone in a couple of places. So back on form after a rough night at the, at the Nürburgring. Our middle round was, I've already blanked. It was Red Bull. Yes, I should remember. It was in Germany. It's a ring of some kind.
Austria.
Yeah, Austria. True, that too. Germany, Austria, Germany. Yeah, it's not 1938. I probably shouldn't be thinking of Anschluss and absorption. Yeah. Oh, hello, Danny Davidson. That's a spin around there on the exit of the hairpin as we go to Lewis Greathead's current lap in the number 12 Ferrari. See here how he's looking at this stage. If I can find him. Personal best sector 1, so looking to improve here on what is currently P15. Scott, let's see here how he attacks the end of this lap as we come into the arena complex.
Yeah, remember as well, in terms of a lap time, 38.4, there's now been multiple cars that have ventured into that 37 marker, and for Cody D, 37.682. So he's only 0.8 of a second back in terms of things off of that pole position lap, but that puts him so far down the order into 15th spot. Still accurate, reasonable as he comes through the final hairpin, and then it's this section. Balance it off, but maintain your speed. Got to run it wide, so he's a little bit shallow there. Didn't run it all the way out, and that means that he hasn't carried enough speed to be able to turn it back. And there's definitely, I reckon, 1.5 to 2 tenths in those last 2 corners right there for a Greathead. So if you can find a little bit more confidence, run it wide over that sausage curb, I think he can improve that time.
And unfortunately, also the car grabbing the apex curb there, and it just upset the run out of the turn as well. So I put the nail in the coffin on that one being an improvement for him. But we'll check back in with him later to see how he goes. Morella, in the meantime, looking at a personal best in the opening sector as he comes to the second sector mark. It looks like that is about a 10th off what he can do, though. So unfortunately, looks like this might not work out as an improvement for the number 7 at this time. But, oh, and then a little deep in through there. Rear end kicks out through turn 12. That will not, well, surely that won't enable him to improve here. So this will have to be take a moment, hope the tyres haven't burned overheated. And actually, never mind, the tyres probably have overheated too much. Pull into the pits, go again. You've still got another 6 minutes, almost 7, to be able to get another one on the board. As we'll check out more drivers on track, including Caleb Hydes, who's also clocked a PB apparently in Sector 1 at 21.4 seconds.
It's going to be about 3 minutes 30, so if you're going to get out for another lap, you're sort of going to be leaving pit lane right now. Any later, and you're not going to get that extra lap in, so something to note. And Caleb Hydes here as well is going to be offering just a little bit of a tow to teammate Dylan Burse. Well, Dylan Burse is actually on an out lap as it currently stands, so this won't be offering a tow, so would have organised that one to get out of the way. Key factor, though, is if they line this up nicely, they give themselves a shot to give Dylan a really, really strong toe. Oh, that was heavy contact with the wall.
Well, that's a run abandoned there for the 92 Eclipse Sim Sports Audi. Is well into the fence there, and back out he will come. A couple of drivers coming to the end of a lap now. Burst, Lock and Capel just ahead of him in the ERT number 8 Porsche, as Lockie looks a little balanced through the corner, but then again, looking at 36, 37 to the line, this won't be an improvement, although only just off 0.04 of a second, 4.5 if you want to get technical. So yeah, he was certainly pushing as it turns out, and then yeah, throws it in so hard at the last turn that he's way out in the weeds there. And we'll check back in with him later. Next car we're going to pick up here, Sam Sproul, the 606, looking to get back into the top 10 here, Scott, as he's going to improve on here, 138.2 as we come into the arena once more. Load up that right rear tyre in these Porsches, get all the weight on the car through there, and then a minute you set up for the double right to finish the lap, and then switch to loading up your left rear, and then flirt with danger there. That is the sausage curb. Doesn't get too much of the apex curbs, that looks all right, and out wide enough that it should be decent. Going to commit to the end of the lap, and will he improve? He'll find a bit of time. Yes, goes to a 38.205, and that's enough to go up to P6, so a very healthy jump up there indeed.
I've got an update for you that's just come in as well. Jake Maloney has managed to make his way into the server, so obviously registered for the server, ran away, grabbed dinner, or whatever he have to do. Will not get in time to set a qualifying lap, but we do have a Merc in the field now.
Well, he's basically been about the one and only Mercedes representative. I actually did go run back the numbers indeed. The field basically dominated by either the Audi R8 Evo 2 configuration here, the Ferrari 296, or the Porsche 911 with, well, Cody Deeth's Lamborghini, Maloney's Mercedes, pretty much the only one. There might be one more in there somewhere amongst the crowd. But yeah, no BMWs represented, and yeah, no one else in the Lamborghini apart from our provisional pole sitter and current driver to beat as Burst there. Only a couple of hundredths off, but it means it's not an improvement on this one. He will go back for a reset, but yeah, that's going to be probably pushing it a little too close to improvement there. As back to Deeth we shall go, and I'm seeing purple sector 1, green sector 2. Are we going to... Actually, no, green sector 2 doesn't quite match up, but fastest in the opening third of the lap checks out, though, so this might push it further forward again.
How much further can he march forward? Because he's set a 4.40, I think it was, in practice trim, but that might have been with a little bit of tone. No support out there at the moment. Does improve to a 6.26, so again, improves by a couple of hundredths of a second, but improves there, Dan, and now Serrano's... This is a little bit deeper in the pack than I think Serrano would necessarily be feeling comfortable, so I'd like to see an improvement from him.
And nope.
Oh, so that curb's going to get talked about throughout the duration of tonight. It was not even one of the curbs that I was worried about.
Yeah, another one of the sausages where if you try and push it too hard, you get out to that curb, it just literally picks the car up and yeah, runs you straight off. There's no way to be able to control the car when it suddenly doesn't have grip on the road that it's expecting. So yeah, it is one that most drivers, it's not too much of a concern usually, but if you're really, really pushing it, well, it's a big old barrier that says you're going too far here and you're heading into the runoff, which is expansive down there, to be clear, obviously, but nevertheless, not going to be ideal. As Ratro White round the corner here will come in the number 17, and that's a couple of hundredths improvement. Did it count? Let's just check. It did, yes.
It did, but not enough to improve at all. So, well, I stuck him in the middle of Jamie Christensen, so it'd be interesting to see whether or not Christie can stick another lap together. Burst is going to have another crack at another one, by the way, so he's not done necessarily yet. I thought he might have been, but back
and
out
Maloney's
there.
on track, and he's going to get a chance to do one lap in the 29 Mercedes for Trans-Tasman Racing. Coming around to the start-finish line now, so he's made it by all of 10 seconds.
Hey, man. 10 seconds is enough, all right? And for a guy that's normally in a V8 supercar, at least he's in a car that sounds not too foreign for it.
Yeah, he picked the one with the big bad V8 motor under the nose, so indeed probably checks most of the boxes here. So it means the driver's coming around now. This is it for them. For Marino Morella, unfortunately, that's not an improvement. For Cody Deeth directly behind, he won't be able to finish the lap that he's currently on. So we'll have to check in with them later. Danny Davidson's just come across the line. No improvement for him, unfortunately, as we round drivers running the final turn ahead of these guys. But looking here at one of our Vermilion Ferraris, unfortunately, can't see the number. It's O'Reilly, the 222 that we're looking at. There we go. The position sign on the door gives us the answer. And unfortunately, Scott, I'm not seeing improvements for him. He tries to build up the speed here down the front straight. Maybe a chance at an improvement, though. Oh, a little quicker than his previous lap, but still a 10th off his best for the night.
Greathead's got an opportunity to improve, though. But again, Dan, like, we're talking about how many cars are in that 2, 3, 4 marker. It's the bulk of the field. There's only a couple of cars to break out of that. And then have a look at how close together Capel, Rattray, White, Christensen are. There's literally less than half a tenth of a second that covers those 3 cars as well. And then in the 2s, you go from a 205 from Sproul all the way down to both 283s with Simon Cox and Zachary Smith. So there's nothing covering those guys. A 307, so effectively just over a tenth of a second covers from Samuel Sproul in 7th spot all the way down to Jacob O'Reilly in 12th. So another 6 cars covered by that, and only gets the opportunity to improve. Was it valid?
Well, yes, it was his one and only lap. And that means that'll be him confirming for now, starting at the back of the field for this opening sprint. And it means we have ourselves a full 20 drivers, perfect 10 rows to get through here tonight. So Eclipse Sim Sports will take the front row once again with Cody Death and Dylan Burse to kick things off here tonight in their order there, with Zach Rattray White going to start at a P3 alongside of Simon Cox, who's definitely the best qualifying result for the number 64 here tonight. Caleb Hyde, the third of our Eclipse Sim Sport cars here this evening, will start at a P5, sharing that row, all 200s between him and Lachlan Capel there in P6. And then same thing here, Danny Davidson, Valve Esports, number 755 out of 7th, just barely ahead of Zach Smith there in the Alpha Venturi, number 25, who is also another driver looking for a good night here tonight. Marina Morella and Seth Brown going to round out your top 10 there in the Visceral Esports and Vermilion Esports cars there, Scott, and I'll leave you with our second half of the field.
Yep, Samuel Sproul was looking to improve in a couple of laps there, didn't quite get it together. Starts out of row number 6. On the inside of Stuart Ellis in the Blackout OPR and Dynamic Sim Racing. Vermilion Motorsports row number 7 is Christensen alongside of Lewis Greathead in an all-Ferrari duo. Moving one row further back to row number 8 is going to be Jacob O'Reilly. Makes it 3 Ferraris in a row in the Vermilion Motorsports entries, and off alongside of Brad Newman, a little bit deeper in the pack than maybe you would have liked. We'll go back to Teo Serrano in the Vermilion Motorsports Porsche, off alongside of Harrison Mitchell's Ferrari. And then finally, the back end row of the grid. Unfortunately, that's not exactly how they've lined up, but Nathan Gardner will be on the inside there. That's what your safety car looks like on the other side of that row, and then Jake Maloney will be in behind them. And we're only a couple of minutes away from getting rolling in terms of this pace lap, but it's a foggy afternoon here in Germany. Just before 2 p.m. in sim time, and 15 minutes worth of racing ahead of us here, Dan.
Indeed, and it's the opening 15 minutes of what ends up being a full hour of racing. I actually need to correct a few things about the gridding here. We've got about another minute to go or so, so actually we'll run through the grid order once again, because unfortunately had a bit of an issue there where the grid graphic didn't line up with everyone's position. So Death and Burst, they check out on the front row. Capel, Rattray, White on row 2. But we might even get a chance to reset it here and see if it works up. So the first 2 rows, they check out. Row 3, though, was the first one that actually... There we go. We actually had a time from Jamie Christensen come in. Must have been towards the end of the session. It didn't quite sync up right. So he's actually at a P5 tonight with Stuart Ellis alongside in P6. Then Sam Sproul, not outside the top 10, inside the top 10 out of P7 tonight. He was sharing row 4 with Caleb Hydes. It's then Marino Morella and Simon Cox back down in 9th and 10th. So unfortunately for Simon Cox, I just talked him up there as being up towards, I think that was the 2nd row at one point, according to the graphic there. He's down back on the 5th row that's in there. Zach Smith and O'Reilly off of row 6. Brad Newman in P13 sharing that row with Seth Brown. Then it's Lewis Greathead and Teo Serrano out of the 8th row tonight. Danny Davidson and Harrison Mitchell off of the 9th row here tonight, and our final 2 cars indeed being in the hands of Nathan Gardner and Jake Maloney. So that there is the order as it is going to be for this opening race, and it is now only a couple of seconds away from the iRacing pace car rolling off to kick this one underway, and indeed, formation lap about to begin.
Technical gremlins, Dan. You and I and technical gremlins. Need I take you back to a V8 Veterans start of season 18, where you were tearing your hair out? That was a lovely couple of weeks from your house. Oh, I'll never mention it again, I swear. But in terms of things, they're rolling off. It's going to be that Eclipse Sim Racing front row. Deeth will have the inside. Dylan burst to his outside. So even though on the graphic they were the other way around, it's going to be odd numbered rows to the inside when they come out of this last corner, and it's going to be even to the outside, Dan. And I tell you what, this is going to be an interesting one, because I can tell you Cable won't wait around, Rattray White won't, and we've got 3 manufacturers in our top 3. 4 manufacturers in our top 4, so it's nice and tight. It's going to be a difficult race. They're getting set, Dan. Here they go.
Green flag in the hands of Cody Deeth, and round 3 of the ANZ Series GT3 National Championship is go. And Deeth gets the nose ahead on the run to turn 1 as we now come through here. Oh, side by side, as that's Capel going very wide. Yeah, trying to force each retro. Big drummer in behind as we've got several of the viewing cars around, and it's Caleb Hines. Newman, oh my goodness, we've had ourselves, the back half of the field is dead. And safety car instantly called by the race control team to immediately try and correct this. What has happened there? All of a sudden. It started with Capel and what looked to be, pardon me, who was that with him there? It should be a Capel and Rattray White got entangled, and all of a sudden we've had absolute carnage through the back half of the field there, Scott.
Well, cold tires on the run into number 1, and it's really, really narrow. You look at it, and on the surface, you go, that's actually quite wide. You generally don't go too wide through turn 1. The only time you really do that is on the first lap of the race, and it's very, very difficult to do so. They've just done a whole bunch of qualifying, right? So they've just gone through having peak conditions, best tires underneath them, giving themselves the best opportunity to get set. And, yeah.
All right, so the Berling Motor Group replay. So, yeah. Capel and Rattray, they get stuck together all by themselves. So, so separate to that, pardon me, I can't pick it. Was that Christensen and Caleb Hydes?
And that's Newman there that we're looking at, the Falcon entry.
Oh, so, yeah, I'm just watching it back on myself now. Yeah, Christensen runs out wide as Hydes is on the outside and tries to take the momentum. That then causes contact / unfortunately a bit of glue. That's what sends there, the 5 and the 92 out wide. And then, yeah, independent of those 4 drivers, we then have further back in the field, and then it's as Christensen's car fires back across the circuit, he's then into the path of Sorono, Seth Brown, and Brad Newman, who then squeeze 3 into 1. Cannot get through. Oh, Zach Smith gets taken out as well in all of this. And, yeah, that's how we ended up in that carnage. And, yeah, I believe I actually even saw the 111 toe instantly, which means that's going to be a slap on the wrist from race control. Indeed, he's out of this opening race at the very least here tonight. As, we now wait for the leaders here to go and catch the Burb Media Porsche Mission R safety car, apparently powered by some Whitey's pies as well. And indeed, there it is. Now approaching the hairpin. And this will give us a chance to... I'm not sure you have. But
I have a strong affinity for cars that are sponsored by food.
I'll keep that in mind in case you ever come and commentate and I need to sponsor a safety car appropriately in that case.
Get a food sponsor on the side of the car, you'll always get more shout-outs. Whitey's Pies has been sponsoring things. They're big supporters of both Adam Hughes and Jake Edwards. And with those guys moving across the Vermilion Motorsports crew this week, that sponsor sort of just tagged along and followed them across. So it's good to see the continuation of the support for those 2 drivers by Whitey's Pies. That is a long standing supporting arrangement between those 2 guys and Whitey's Pies. So it's really, really happy to see that support still in place.
Indeed, yeah, good to see. Indeed, as I said, partnerships continuing across teams and such. I'm just now trying to figure out. Yeah, so this now whole shake-up. So top 2 unaffected. Stuart Ellis has jumped up from P6 to P3. Sam Sproul has gone with him, P7 to P4. You then get Lachlan Capel dropping back to P5 after his entanglement with Rattray White. Apologies, I've just had a bit of a drink, and that's not been a great idea, apparently. Simon Cox up to P6 from P10. Marina Morella gaining a couple of spots. Rattray White way back in P8. Seth Brown up to 9th, and Harrison Mitchell all the way up from 18th to 10th as the safety car is pulled away. We're almost in the hands of the race lead, although it looks like he's having to hold it here for a second, and the safety car is pulled away quite late here, so it looks like it's going to be right in the last 2 turns, and maybe even not until Deeth. They go in the lane now. Deeth has control as we enter the final corner on board with the number 3, and indeed puts the hammer down as he gets past the apex here. Scott, restart underway. 10.5 minutes on the clock for this opening heat as we try and get this one restarted here at the Hockenheim ring.
Yeah, really, really good opportunity for these guys to punch out and out single file on this restart as well, so keep an eye up and down the field. Don't forget there's a couple of drivers who come down pit lane for some repairs at the tail end of town, and they're going to feed too wide as they get down to turn number 2. Multiple cars attempting an overtaking opportunity.
Oh no, around Retro White, I think. Yep, it is. Dear me.
And someone else has gone around as well. I think it might have been Caleb Hides. It was. Hides is around again.
Oh, at almost halfway up the straight too. So it was on the back of Brad Newman. Went to go around the outside through turns 2, 3, and 4. And oh no, he's gotten loose on the curb. Cold tyres through the final part of that complex at turn 4. And was a tap from Brad Newman, but at that point, Hides was long gone and lost speed right in front of him. 17 of Rattray White, real quickly, just checking. Went up to the inside of Marino Morella at turn 2. It's actually, that's a very odd one to look at on replay, Scott. It looks like his car's like grabs the raised inner apex curb, and it's not like that one bit.
Got an opportunity to review that in the future. I'll tell you what, Danny Davison didn't get a good run as they come down to the arena section down through and around turn 8. So that sort of checked up a whole pack of cars that we're looking at the moment. Zach Smith is in the middle of this. Brad Newman's in the back, and Lewis Greathead as well. So Gardner's there and looking okay as it currently stands, but he's got Smith really crawling all over that rear bumper. And an opportunity for Smith to see if he can try and pick up a couple spots as well. So I'll get their head down and see if they can go forward. One of the big winners actually out of all of this is Jake Maloney, up 10 spots from 20th to 10th.
Indeed, another, yeah. Didn't quite get the time to do a qualifying run, did Maloney, and he's now challenging for 9th as we head up to turn number 2 once again. He's clear of Harrison Mitchell. That is going to be position gain for the number 29 as Caleb Hides, the next driver who will retreat to the pit lane. And oh, it's gone up on the jacks, so a tyre change. So we're going to see here once again on the Berlin Motor Group. This is what happened with Retro. Just, yeah, from that angle, it doesn't quite tell the story. To be honest, from when I looked at it, I didn't think I saw, and I did actually being told, yeah, there was a bit of netcode. Unfortunately, that's the aftermath of Hides around, and yeah, bunts it backwards into the concrete there, unfortunately, which does him no favours. Having not really gotten caught up on lap 1, actually, because I think he got away with that one there a little bit. Nevertheless, though, has gone up on the jacks. The car's changing tyres and the like, so he'll be at risk of being a lap down here if he doesn't get out soon enough. Nevertheless, so there we go. First instance at racing speed of a car getting up and over the sausage there. Scott, first one up, though, was Lachlan Capel in that number 8 ERT Porsche, pushing the limits on that particular turn there, turn 10.
He's getting backed up a little bit as well. So remember, he was that couple of tenths of a second quicker in terms of qualifying. So his qualifying lap was a 38.02, and now he's in behind Sproul, who's about 1.8 tenths of a second sort of slower. So 18 hundredths of a second, if you will. So right now he's sort of a little bit corked up. He's got to try and figure out a way around, and he's got 2 Porsches on the road directly ahead of him. So the difficulty right now for Capel is going to be he's matching those cars. He knows he's a little bit better than them, but he can't really sit down and say, I beat them convincingly in this area of the track, because he's just about matching grip and matching performance characteristics with them. So now it's got to be about setup, and the best opportunity to set a move up all comes down to this hairpin. First, you've got to be close enough, then you've got to be either ready to dive it to the inside and be aggressive on those brakes, or set it up for the exit. Force your opponent to cover, and the guy that actually looks on the move might be Sproul. He is really zeroing in on Stuart Ellis.
Getting close there, but not close enough under brakes as they all make their way down into the hairpin. As we watch here, Danny Davidson up the inside of Harrison Mitchell. That there for the last spot in the top 10. Gets the job done nicely, indeed. And they will carry on. A couple of drivers here hanging on despite, well, for Zach Smith, heavy damage to the front of the number 25 Alvin Jury Porsche. Opted not to get that car fixed up as the 13 of Nathan Gardner eyeing off that Ferrari there. Pardon me, you can find them. It's Jacob O'Reilly all the way back there at this stage. Is another update from Race Control. Unfortunately for Zach Ratray White, he's been no further actions twice in this race, and unfortunately, the additional note there says self-inflicted apparently as part of that one there for him in that contact spin when he was alongside Marino Morella at turn 2. Lap 1 also considered the no further action between him and Lachlan Capel as drivers get across the line here, approaching 2/3 complete already in this race time-wise. At least, Scott, you can see there they're all really pushing limits. Probably in most cases have got incident points to play with. I get the feeling track limits at turn 1 might not be too essential as Sproul in deep at turn 2. He's close enough though. I reckon he might have a good chance at the run here on Stuart Ellis as we come up to the hairpin this time by.
Yeah, but the key factor as well is Lachlan Capel's close enough to get a double toe here, and the double draft is going to give him a huge amount of overspeed, but Sproul's not really making any advantage. Now he's going to dive, shows the nose just a little bit, doesn't quite get covered from Stuart Ellis. What it does do is balk the braking zone, and that's allowed Capel to really start to close in. They nearly made contact as they got drive off of the hairpin. The Spitzcare hairpin nearly becomes Daniel Sproul and Stuart Ellis's opportunity for demise. It's into the arena section. Now he's looking for the switchback. Capel's right into the picture. Don't block too much, boys. Don't fight too much, because Capel's going to go knocking on that door.
I have to say, through the hairpin, Capel didn't really get as close on exit as I thought he might have, actually, because he went almost so wide to really straighten the exit. It didn't work for him. He finally got back there onto the gearbox of Sproul at the Mercedes Arena as Sproul went for the outside, inside back to outside on the brakes just in front of him there. And so they'll compress once up, but looks to be at this stage, none of these drivers able to really get a run in a straight line, despite the fact that Ellis has got no draft ahead of him to work off of. He's having to do this all by himself, although he's a little wide to the final turn. Then again, using a tiny bit more of the exit curve, so should be able to maintain his momentum. He's got this 3, almost 5-car fight for the podium spot here. It's through turn 1 they go. For a moment there, I thought Sproul a little slow on the middle of the corner, but ends up working pretty neutral. Caleb Hines is looking to rejoin the race, albeit 3 laps down, and we'll wait for the field to go by before he does so. And then through here, again, differing lines. I think Capel losing out there, pushing a little too hard through turns 2 and 3, as we've got Brad Newman and Harrison Mitchell now dueling over 11th place. So I have to say, looks like, unfortunately for Mitchell, after good gains there, avoiding the chaos on lap 1, now starting to fall back into position relative to where his pace would be, it seems. As another update from race control. This time, though, it's going to be a time penalty for Jamie Christensen. Unfortunately, he's in the pits out of this one so far. It's not going to do all much as Newman up the inside of Mitchell, and Lewis Greyhead looking for a spot as well to get the run by, but not quite done there at the hairpin this time by.
Still got my eyes glued to this battle, actually. That's perfect timing. That is a segue. That is directors with experience for you. I was keeping my eyes still on this battle, and again, Capel's just not... His weakest aspect seems to be that hairpin. Now, it wasn't helped by the run through turn 2. That was where he sort of set himself offline. It was a fraction deep down at turn 2. That's where he was offline, and he just never sort of caught it back up. But it's all the sections really that he kind of can't pass where Capel's stronger. So he's got to find something at the hairpin. It could be just a little bit outfoxing Sproul to the inside. That is not a place to go looking for an overtake. All that's going to do is open the door to Capel in behind you as these 3 continue to squabble over the scraps of the podium.
They have to say we've been on board with Ellis for this 3rd sector. He looked really loose all the way from turn 12, which is the sort of the apex corner at the arena itself. He's very wide there on the exit of turn 1. No slowdowns, actually, so they get away with it there, and he's able to just therefore maintain enough speed here. So try turn 2 this time right, and they all get compressed. Capel there that time, able to pull it up and really try and tighten the exit, but as a result, they're sort of stuck under the wing and the gearbox of Ellis. Can Sproul get the run? Because you see here now, even though I'd say Capel should be getting double draft, it's not really worked for him there. Maybe a bit backed up at the apex as Ellis middle of the road. Sproul goes way inside. He gets the spot off the 73. Oh, Ellis tries for the crisscross Scott. He can't get there. Gets parked by the 606 position change, but Capel's still stuck behind in 5th.
Yeah, how good was Sproul, though, on the brakes, though? Supreme down there. I thought for sure he was going to go deep. He braked so much later than Stuart Ellis, but he got that car pulled up perfectly. So really, really well balanced. And like you said, it came from Stuart Ellis just being that little bit unstable. Now this brings a couple more cars back into it. Cox is now closed. Morella's now there and in the fight as well. So now it's about how do these guys close up a fraction, use their heads. It's about setting yourself up again, get yourself in contention, and then nick a spot that you should have no thoughts and reasons to be there. Go ahead and just take it in the last couple laps.
Indeed, and while all this has been happening, yeah, your Eclipse Simsports teammates up in front of Deeth and Burst are clear, and they're coming to the white flag here. Opening heat is almost done in this one as they come across the line and see Barney with the flag. So I have to see now, is Sprouse safe in P3? And I have to say, with the couple of car lengths he's got, he might just be. Capel needs to find something here on Stuart Ellis, and indeed, turn 1 might just be his opportunity as Ellis goes defensive. So immediately compromises turn 2. There you go, Capel round the outside on the anchors. Although now he'll be vulnerable to a better drive off for the number 73, and they are very close to contact there. And as a result, look at that there, it's compromised Capel's run so much so, I don't reckon he's a shot of the hairpin once again unless this suddenly turns around in the draft.
Well, the first note is Ellis was weak at the hairpin last time by. Capel was stronger, but Sproul was the best of the lot of them. So this time it changes things. You've got to have a go. It's the last lap of the race. Capel to the inside. Gets there. They'll bang doors as they get there. It was wheel-to-wheel contact. Pulls the car up. Now who's got the drive? It's going to be looking for a little bit of a draft assistance. Ellis can get to the inside. He's still a shot. Gives him a whack, though, at the apex. Not quite there. Not quite done.
And it looks to be Capel through and sealed for P4. As, yeah, that little bit of contact at the apex of the hairpin helped him get the job done, it seems, and not able to drive around the outside with Stuart Ellis to contest as they come back into the arena for the final time here in Heat 1. So don't worry, though, we've still got another race to worry about with this one here. So just too much, you know, actually officially it's more like 4 turns left in this one because you've got this little left-right flick to worry about, then the double right to end the lap. But once again, Cody Deeth starting from the pole had to deal with a safety car restart, but he is unchallenged in the opening sprint. Dylan Burst will come home there in second at 1.6 seconds, and it will be Sam Sproul who leads the pack home behind. And look at that there at the end, Stuart Ellis struggling and almost losing spots to Simon Cox and Marino Morella, but not quite. We'll stay hang on the P5 at the end of the opening heat.
Takes a really, really deft driver to be able to extract the most out of that Porsche. So the fact that he's been run down and overtaken by a couple of drivers who's in and around there is not surprising. But, you know, opportunity presents itself. He hung on to it as long as he possibly could. I think it's a little bit cheeky of Capel, the contact they had down at the apex of the hairpin. But all play on. All's fair in love and war, and all's fair in motorcar racing.
Or at least we haven't heard anything to that effect. As we'll have a look at the quick result here. Cody Deeth, 1.6 seconds clear of Dylan Burst's teammate, and then as a result of all the flying behind, Sam Sproul comes home about 6 seconds back there in P3. I'm going to bring in Cody Deeth for another interview here in the commentary box. And congratulations once again, Cody. Another strong start to a round here in the ANZ Series GT3 National Championship. Safety car this time in the opening heat to have to worry about. Once again, able to pull a small but comfortable margin there, it seemed, all the way through to the checkered flag.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was pretty good. Off-tracks are interesting. They were quite hard to keep it on the track, but you know, had the pace to keep doing it about a 1 second gap, and managed to pull away after the safety car.
Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to chat to you again at the end of the feature, but you have said at a couple of other circuits that you felt the Lamborghini maybe not as great on the long run as some of the other cars here tonight. Any feeling of that so far here tonight, or did that feel pretty consistent and on pace for you there in that opening 15 minutes?
I think it should be pretty good here. I've just got to drive properly and hit my marks.
Well, that'll do it from me. Scott, any quick questions for you to Cody before we get ready for the feature race here in a sec?
Just, yeah, is it a priority to get down to the inside at turn 1? That's obviously, I think, the biggest key of the race. If you can do that, it's just about setting sail from there and controlling the pace.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty much. You can't really follow too well around here with the dirty air. So if you're in front, you've got it much easier than the cars behind you. So it's pretty smooth sailing up front.
Well, thanks for having the chat with us once again, Cody, and good luck here in this 45-minute feature just about to start here as well.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
And there we go. That'll do us for the quick break here and moment to chat to our race 1 winner. And yeah, that definitely checks a lot of boxes there. I mean, in saying that, Cody didn't have to worry about dirty air one bit in that opening race. We'll see how he goes in terms of being challenged perhaps in this second one. So the order for race 2, the feature, is taken directly from the results of race 1. So as they finished is how they will line up here once again. Deeth from Burst on that front row. Sproul now promoted to P3 to kick this one off ahead of Lachlan Capel sharing that second row with him there. Scott Ellison Cox off of row 3 with Morella and Seth Brown, who quietly made his way up to P8 in that opening heat. Jake Maloney, as we see there, the biggest mover up 11 spots to P9, was sharing that 5th row with Danny Davidson to round out our top 10.
Yeah, and then from there on back, it's Newman and Greathead on row number 6. Behind them will be Harrison Mitchell and Zach Rattray White. See if he can recover in race number 2. Jacob O'Reilly and Nathan Gardner in behind him. And then on to Zachary Smith and Caleb Hydes. And finally, the back row of the grid is going to be not the safety car and Jamie Christensen. Actually, I think it will be. I think somebody's been promoted back to that next lap, next row. So
officially, yes, there's actually a spot for the safety car on the grid next to Christensen, which won't be filled. And no sign of Teo Sorono, so it looks like he is done for tonight in the 111. So he was meant to be alongside the number 5, technically speaking. But yeah, looks like the safety car got in, technically got it, promoted ahead, unfortunately, of the number 5 and 111 machines. But once again, we get ready to go racing here. Thankfully for Cody Deeth as the race leader, he will have that inside line as we get ready to go racing once again. So he's got control once the pace car pulls in, which should help him here, Scott, with getting the run to turn 1. But then you've got Sproul and Capel now on this second row. We saw a little bit of fireworks with Capel last time at turn 1. Let's see what happens here as pace car comes in. We wait for Cody Deeth to choose when to drop the hammer here in the number 3. He waits some more, and now he goes, and we get this race underway once again, and Burst able to slot in straight behind. It's single file at the front of our top 4. Ellis challenging Capel on the inside for turn 1 this time. Here we go.
There was this huge check-up as well. Sproul jumped on the anchors just a little bit earlier than Capel was expecting. It just sort of nose to tail, nose to tail.
Maloney. Round the outside for the 29 Mercedes. He's actually going to swoop it and cuts off Simon Cox in a beautiful run there for the Merc. Gets up 3 spots in the opening 2 turns as we've got cars in the weeds. Lewis Greathead. Oh, and O'Reilly. The 2 Ferraris go around at the back of the field through turns 3 and 4 on the exit of the complex there. And because they haven't crashed, they're going to recover and be miles off the back of the pack straight away, unfortunately. As Capel deep on the brakes. Can he get it pulled up on the inside of Sproul? Yes, and Sproul not able to get underneath the challenge. So there's a big bomb that pulls off nicely at the hairpin on lap 1.
Yeah, now they've got to try and settle themselves down in. Look at Newman immediately trying to get aggressive. He's got to. He's got to try and cut his way through this field. He's grabbed up a boatload of spots at the moment. Now he's going to harass Cox down on the inside there and around the outside. Gets the curbing, manages to save it. Seth Brown grabs 2 spots as well.
Now, what you hear from Morella. Can he hang on to it? Does hang on to it. Can he challenge now into the entrance of the arena? Probably not. There's so much curb there that, yeah, Newman on the inside should be able to hang on to that one there. And you got Davidson side by side with Rattray White as they try and sort that one out. And Caleb Hyde's trying to recover too. To the inside of Morella. Contacts, loosens the 92. Slows everyone up. And, oh, Davidson in secondary contact with Hydes there. It puts the 755 way off in the rest. And more contact now between Harrison Mitchell and Hydes through the second last corner.
It was difficulty because Caleb Hydes was really starting to push forward. He grabbed a ton of spots on that opening lap, and then it all fell apart in that final sector. So there's a little bit more work for him to do. I mean, he's the lone shark at the back end of things from that Eclipse Simsports group, but he's looking to try and make some advantages now, but boy, he's giving himself a tough ask. Yeah,
just tried to get up on the inside of Morella, got loose, then contact with Davidson, then contact again with Mitchell there in the all-black Ferrari. Realistically, you couldn't really ask for a much worse lap 1 short of contact that was terminal there for him. As on board we go, looking back at Seth Brown. This is with Simon Cox in the number 64 Mercedes. Oh, sorry, Audi. Apologies, the Mercedes just ahead of him. Waiting to see what Jake Maloney can do, because that was a very aggressive but calculated lap 1 from the 29. There's something at the back. Oh, Davidson and contact. Has that happened with Harrison Mitchell?
All three of them came together. It was Davison, Gardner, and Mitchell all came together.
Oh, yeah.
They actually turned Gardner and then straightened him back out at the same time. So I was expecting him to go for a complete 180. Didn't do so. They managed to straighten him back out. All's fair. Continue on, boys.
Mostly. It probably didn't help that, I don't know if it's going to happen here on the broadcast replay from Burley Motor Group. Small issue there in the form of a disappearing Nathan Gardner for a second there, which did not help matters. But that was an ambitious lunge from Danny Davidson, and it's just only worked out probably because he straightened the 13 back up again. So we'll see if that takes any further attention, but there are a couple of calls regarding what happened back on lap 1 that they had to dig into with number 12 of Greathead and the 222 of O'Reilly to start understanding there as first racing laps, well, so I should say second racing laps come in here, and it's going to be Dylan Burst with the fastest so far in the session by all of 1/100th of a second at this stage over Cody Death. So they're keeping within a second. Cable not too far behind, but that Porsche, the way it didn't necessarily look strong in a straight line in that last race. Watch out if we can get on board with Jake Maloney, because he's starting to close in on Stuart Ellis, and I reckon he's going to have a go here at the hairpin on this one.
Yeah, and of all the cars with the straight line speed, it's going to be that Merc is the big one in this field. It's sort of the only one that's going to have that supreme straight line advantage in terms of its ability to get off those corners as well. So that's why he's been cutting his way through the field. It's apex and long corner rotation that he struggles for in that Merc, but he's still managing to harass Stuart Ellis. And look, if it was a normal livery TTR car, maybe it'd look a little bit more organised, but maybe sometimes that's what harasses you a little bit more when it's a funky looking car like what Jake Maloney's got going on here.
Well, would you believe, though, in saying all that, Maloney's positions have come from swinging around the outside of turn 1, staying within track limits more or less, mind you, and then round the outside in on the brakes at turn 2, and then just being able to get the nose shut and basically stop everyone that he got past. Namely, it was Simon Cox that he passed last. So actually hasn't had to do any straight line overtaking just yet, and we'll see how he works it through here. You can see there that tighter entry has compromised the exit speed relative to Ellis's Porsche and the different line that they chose there. But if you can stay close, definitely going to be on for something. But there you go, a little bit slower through turn 1. We heard from Cody Death there between the races. Scott Dirty Air playing its part in his opinion. Although nice apex there from Maloney. Whether it translates into run out the other side, though, yet to be seen as our first penalty of the race comes through, and it'll be 5 seconds added to the time going to Harrison Mitchell, the number 41 Ferrari. Yeah, Maloney is closer, and I reckon Maloney is definitely going to have a crack. Ellis starts to defend, but not too much. And there we go, under brakes, here he comes. That should, well, Ellis trying to defend here, I should say. Scott ran the outside, but no, can't get it pulled up. Can't hold Maloney tight enough. Will exchange that P5 spot.
The problem with the Porsche is when it's deep, one of two things happens. Either the rear end comes out from underneath you, or you just cannot get the car to pivot in. So Stuart didn't quite get the car pulled up enough before he started to pivot the car in, and that was enough for Jake to sort of just go right in underneath him and get the drive off. Although I don't think Stuart fought that one too much. I think he's looking for a little bit of a toe, see if they can get a little bit closer. The problem that he's got at the moment is Stuart's a little bit higher up than he would have expected. That's good from a points perspective, but now you've got to make sure you don't lose too much time every time somebody's trying to overtake you. Why? It lengthens the period of time that you're ahead of them. Yeah, you want to fight them, but the instant they get down that inside, sometimes it's better to yield as quickly as you possibly can, get back in line, get back on your pace.
Yeah, without a doubt, that is part of the game here. Still early days. We've only got, what's that now? 6.5 minutes of racing on the board. So definitely need to think long term at this stage of the race. You've still got a pit stop you're going to have to do to add fuel to the car to make it home. Unless we somehow have a massive battering ram of safety cars that completely disrupts the expected fuel strategy in this race, which, well, given what we've seen tonight, and they've now fanned out probably enough. I say they've fanned out, they're mostly single file in a queue there, but they're just spaced out enough at this stage, it seems, that either people are saving fuel or we're seeing, again, cars balance enough to the point where overtaking is this tough, and the straight line advantage is being isn't able to make up for the loss of grip and speed through the turns. As we'll look on board here with, pardon me, Rattray White, currently sitting in P10. Come then into the hairpin once again. You can see there, fairly even once more. Sorry, as they try and get up to speed. Once again, head for the Mercedes arena, I believe it's what it's called, with this stand and badging and sponsorship and the like.
Yeah, indeed, that'd be correct. Albeit there's only one Mercedes in the field. It stands out, which is always nice to see. There it goes, front end of the shot from Jake Maloney's perspective. Tough night though for the Vermilion Simsports crew in terms of things that have been involved in most of the drama that's going on. But see, that's also part of the thing, is when you've got the bulk of the cars in the field, generally you're going to have the bulk of the cars in the incidents too. It's just how it works.
Indeed, unfortunately, a process of elimination and the numbers that go in by sheer numbers and quantity. Yeah, when you roll the dice on the odds there of something coming unstuck, then indeed it does unfortunately put you at a higher risk of rolling. Well, depends what number you don't want to roll, I guess.
Snake eyes?
What's the unlucky number on
Snake eyes.
per dice? Or not even a number, it can be snake eyes, alright. Or you mean 2?
2, yeah. 2 ones.
Yep.
Yep.
That makes sense. Ah, you've got 2 dice. Ah, I see.
When was the last time you rolled a single dice in a board game, Dan?
Probably never. You're right. Singular die is not an often used device, but we can have that discussion off air. I think it's probably a better use of our time, because looking at things here, gap still around. Well, it was 9/10 at the hairpin. It's back up to a second apparently on our way down here to the Mercedes Arena between Deeth and Burst. But we'll see how this plays out, because past couple of rounds, Deeth has said that Lamborghini feels like it struggles a little bit for tyres compared to the cars behind, but we heard it from him. We can seeing it for ourselves in the mid pack that getting a run is definitely takes a fair bit of setup, or realistically takes an error from the guy behind to be able to capitalise and actually close up as a result. Because look at them all here, basically snake starting at Jake Maloney, practically unbroken down to Zach Smith, covering nearly 5 seconds, and that's it. Let's go on board Simon Cox once again in the number 64. He's got Seth Brown looking to try and close up and find a way past, but pretty even to the last 2 turns once again. So they will continue as they were as they cross the line to start lap 7 in this race here tonight.
When you have a look at Jake Maloney, I mean, one of the key things is from race number 1, he had to fight his way through all of the shenanigans that happened on lap number 1. Kept himself safe, kept himself secure, experienced, knew exactly what he needed to do, but also had to get himself into the race, make sure that he felt comfortable in terms of this car. Then in race number 2, he just went to work. All right, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to start pressing my way through these fields. When you have a look at the quality of drivers that he's in and around, that says a lot about Jake. He stepped up in what is an air quotes weaker car, and really laid the letter of the law down. That's actually an impressive drive. 15 spots in a GT3 race is never anything to sit down and look at and shake your head about. He's been helped a little bit by 2 separate restart, 1 safety car restart, 2 race starts, but 15 spots from the start of the night, always a big tick of approval on that one.
Oh, without a doubt. And the fact of the matter is, I can actually run through the numbers and actually confirm it. It's not the first time it's happened. Opening round, Nürburgring, qualified 32nd in a field of, if I'm looking at it here, so qualified 32nd, or didn't have a qualifying time, was the last car to start that race. Proceeded to then climb up to 16th in the heat, and then make his way further forward to P7 in the feature. As in all of my stat analysis and compilations, I've missed something there, I think.
No. I was exclaiming at that number. 16 spots in a 15-minute heat race. That's phenomenal.
Yes, and then he did it again at the Red Bull Ring. Started P28 out of our 28 drivers that took to the field. In the heat race, not so much movement. Only got to 24th, but then in the feature last time we were out, 24th up to 7th in the 45-minute race there. So whilst Jake isn't one that we normally see running in GT3 cars, do not count him out. He is already up to, as we said, P5, and looking to try and hunt down our 4th and 3rd place drivers as we look here at Brad Newman trying to get past Rattray White. And this time the Porsche is going to finally get something here. He's inching ever closer to the gearbox, and he's actually going to roll out and actually save some fuel, so never mind. Won't go after that spot straight away, and maybe see if that Ferrari can catch up to the other Ferrari. And it's been an exchange. That's what I missed back at turn 2 apparently. So Rattray White gets maybe a bit of liberties taken with the track limits there at turn 1, Scott, but gets the job done. And Newman deciding to play the long game there and not go straight back forward at the hairpin.
Yeah, what are rules if not to be broken, and what are track limits if not to be run over and disregarded entirely? Whoa!
Oh, well, speaking of which, there you go. Rattray White and Newman both deciding that. Did they grab the sausage?
Yeah, they did.
Yep, they both launched way over the sausage. That immediately picked up the front end of both cars, and lo and behold, when your front tyres aren't on the ground, your car does not particularly, turn.
My word, that was a huge moment for Rattray White. I mean, he's got his head down. He's got the ears pinned back as well. So this is a pretty good drive. Been a while between drinks too for Brad Newman. In terms of seeing him around. Obviously this series has been his pet of late. But other than that, I mean, not been doing a whole host of driving in terms of things as it currently sits. And it's good to actually see him back out and in the car.
Yeah, indeed, as Marino Morella's now got Christensen to his inside after turn 1, but he is able to hang it around the outside as the number 7 and gets back ahead as they come through turn 4 and run onto the back straight. Although, with that Ferrari right behind, I would expect Christensen's going to get the start. There you go, here comes the draft, kicking in now as they grab 5th and head towards 6th. And to the inside will look the number 5. Morella's good on the brakes here, Scott. He might be able to pinch him at the apex. Yes, he will. And there you go. Round the outside, gets a slightly straighter exit and gets on the power earlier. Christensen does not take the place away unless he can cross over here into turn 8. And I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to because Morella runs the middle of the road.
I think Morella sort of had to, but now Morella's going to be deep. Now comes the opportunity for a crisscross. Morella's going to be offline. He's not going to get the opportunity to really straighten up the apex of this corner, but Christensen was a fraction too close. Still looking for any overlap that he possibly can. The right-hander up here, not an opportunity to get the car alongside. You need to be significantly on the side before you get to the apex of that corner. Otherwise, there's not really an opportunity. But Christensen looks stronger. You've got to say, if you look at it on current space, he's certainly making time. And the problem is he wants to sort of get a hurry on, give himself an opportunity to go and run down Newman. Got pace as Christensen, but he's now got to try and set this move up. And that is going to be the key. Has to be good drive off of turn 2 this time by.
I mean, yeah, he's out of position after being caught up in the lap 1, turn 1 incident in race 1. So having to now try and drive his way back through the field in this feature. And yeah, just think as it rolls out of it here into turn 2. We'll see what he can do in terms of... And Morella's in hot. So if he can get the drive out here right, although does Christensen get in too deep to get a good drive off? I think he has. He's gone in too much under brakes and he's compromised his exit by having to pull it up at the apex. So he could dive it here if the car comes back to him on the straightaway. But there's Zach Smith in behind and that Alpha Venturi number 25 as well that needs to be mindful of. And no, in fact, all three of them pretty much equidistant before they hit the brakes there. The hairpin this time, Scott. So no exchange of position. But once again, that's now the second time Morella's made a... well, that one was a little more unforced than what we saw coming into the Mercedes arena here last time round. But it's one of the things here in the Porsche you can eat when you outbrake yourself. You just plow straight on when it goes in too hot.
Yeah, you've nearly got to stop the car then. You've really got to pull the car up excessively to rotate it back. So the Porsche is all about precision. When you're nice and precise, it gives you a great run, but now Morella makes a little bit of a mistake down at turn 11 trying to get the car pitched in. The key factor was, I think Morella was actually slow at turn 2. Is really, really slow at the apex. And it wasn't that Christensen couldn't get to the throttle. He wanted to get to the throttle. He absolutely had the car sat up, was perfect, was looking for the drive off. But Morella just propped him a little bit. He just checked him up at the corner, and that was enough. That was it, So whether or not Morella now starts to think in the back of his mind, well, I can do this just about lap on lap, and that's going to be the best defense I've possibly got. But at this point in time, Christensen's getting significantly closer. The run through turn number 1 from the Ferrari driver is significant. Now watch how they react down in the apex of the corner this time. Further back. Sets up the drive. This will be the opportunity.
Yeah, Morella didn't run as wide that time either, so I do feel it was more of an unforced error what we saw last time round, because here we go down the past the parabolica here on the back straight, and with the even run now, the Ferrari right up underneath the wing of that Porsche will be punching a nice healthy hole in the air. Although he's not strong under brakes, only gets there right as we get to turn in. As a result, Morella is still alongside through the apex and corner exit. Now, who got the better drive out this time? I have to say, though, it looks like the Christensen, the inside has worked for him. And there we go, Morella slots in before they get to the kink here and fire into this Mercedes arena section. So, took a little longer than he probably wanted, but now gets some clean air on the nose of the number 5 Ferrari. Next one up the road, indeed, is Brad Newman in that Lobs Falcon Porsche, as Zach Smith now taking a turn over the curb there at the exit of turn 10.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not Morella actually might have lifted off. If he didn't, the car actually seemed like it jerked to a halt nearly. There was a little bit of a bobble around in terms of the acceleration there. So I think he might have missed a gear, is actually my assumption, because the car just nearly looked like it stopped. Oh, Christensen's wide now.
Thankfully, not going to be an issue for him at the moment. Just challenging the curb there. Could be risky, but works out okay this time. And in fact, if anything, he's pushed the limits hard enough to the point where it's actually gaining him a bit of an advantage. Just pure speed that he's carrying. Because Morello, look at that already, dropping back into the clutches of Zach Smith, the fellow Porsche back there on these outskirts of the top 10, looking to try and find their way back to the 10. Still in the hands of Newman, although you can see he's just up the road by a good, well, half second or so, I think it is. No, almost a second, I should say, as we'll check back in with that group later, because we've got this pack inside the 10 to start looking at here. Stuart Ellis still keeping touch with Jake Maloney, but now having to worry about Simon Cox, Seth Brown, and Zach Ratchway-White, who are all looking to get spots off him at this stage in the race. And again, coming up to 25 minutes to go, although across on the 26, we're about 10 or so minutes away from the fuel running out in these cars, give or take exact burn around the Hockenheim ring here tonight. We'll have to see who's playing the long game, Scott, who's saving fuel to try and get the position done in the pit stop and get the clean air that way, because yeah, really are seeing these drivers have to really work for every move they can get, or rely on big mistakes that completely upset the car in front of them to make life easier for them.
Yeah, the cars here are just too big, too heavy, too wide, and too affected by dirty air to really allow for overtaking opportunities anywhere except sort of the hairpin, maybe turn two, are really the only realistic opportunities around the lap. So yeah, you're right. Immediately, how do you get yourself into a position to get that done? Well, number one is, if it's just not going to happen, you're too far back. At the end of the straight, just lift off the gas. You save yourself a couple hundred mils of fuel on the run down to the hairpin. Can't drop too far back, because then you're just never going to get another opportunity to do so. But you can just save little bits of fuel everywhere, take it a little bit easier on the way in. Tires is another way that you can sort of save things. Over the course of 45 minutes or so, you can definitely, depending upon the setup, wear your tires out just a fraction. So if you go, okay, I'm just not going to get anything done at the moment, settle yourself in, think about it, try and get it done later on. In terms of that tyre wear, when somebody else's tyres have overheated, fallen off the cliff, and then tyre heat, a big issue that you're sort of going to get done. The other opportunity, undercut. Give yourself a lap or two of fresh air. If you know that you are definitely quicker and you can stick that lap together when asked, fresh air. Go for the undercut. That's the other opportunity.
Speaking of positions and whatnot, we have had ourselves a change, and well, Seth Brown, first night out for me at least that I've seen him in vermilion colours. Looks like he might have just helped engineer that one there for Zach Ratchway-White, teammate there. So they will swap around and carry on without further drama. Driver, speaking of which, who might have gone for the undercut strat, Lewis Greyhead has now come out after a 13-second stop and is completely on his lonesome. So now see if this is an example of a driver who's able to now press on. The only downside is he's got more fuel on board. That's going to add a little bit of extra weight to the car, of course, and that might mean that he's going to have a little bit, well, he's going to have to work a little harder on the car. And as you just said literally, we've worked the car too hard. It's not so much yet tyre wear in a 45-minute race, but as you said, tyre heat. If you overdrive it, you start slipping the tyre, it starts sliding, you quickly fall off a cliff here with these GT3 tyres, and tyres in general here as well on iRacing. So let's see if that number 12 can make something of it. Harrison Mitchell will also come to the pits on this lap in the number 41, so he'll be the next person to go for the early stop and fill up soon rather than later.
Tell you what, Ratchway-White is just making sure that he's filling the mirrors right now with Simon Cox. That move, he showed the nose to the inside, but there was nothing about a move being thrown there whatsoever. He was just making Cox think about it. And Cox immediately outbraked himself just a touch down in the hairpin. Pulls himself a fraction further up. So definitely working away at it is Zach Ratchway-White. And in terms of lap speed, he's taken it 2/10 out of Cox in the first sector. Looks like he's going to be quick again in this middle sector. It's 3/10 on the last lap out of that final sector. So Cox is actually just a touch quicker through the middle sector this time by. So gives himself an opportunity. So a mistake there from Zach Ratchway-White. Not a huge one, but just enough just to buy some time back to Cox. This time by, this next time down through the parabolica, he'll be close enough to get the move done. So
through this third sector. Cox, I think he might be, he's indicating perhaps he's going to peel to the pits. Yeah, no, never mind. I'll take that back. Just a little slower, a little tighter at some of those corners, but also didn't quite hit the apex as well and a few others. So has dropped way off the back of Stuart Ellis there as a result. And now has Ratro all over his gearbox. And yeah, this should make the run down the backstretch past the Parabolica quite straightforward for the 17. In fact, he's even going to threaten here at turn 2. So never mind the backstretch. Oh, he's in too hot. If Simon can pull this one back underneath him, but no. In giving the space to Ratro White to make that one work, it hasn't allowed him to get the over-under, although it does set him up a little bit here. Gets a bit of slipstream now in the initial parts of the straightaway. And there we go. We move out to the clean air. Has he got enough overspeed to pull alongside? Because that Ferrari, with no toe, is going to stay ahead. But here we go. On the brakes comes Cox. Can he park it? Doesn't really need to in the end. Actually gets it back on the racing line ahead of the 17.
Well done, good racecraft. I was a little bit worried about Simon Cox. Sometimes one of the best things you can do is just be a car length off of their rear bumper. Oh, he's looking again. He's absolutely going to have another crack down here as they get to the arena section. Still going to be alongside, and the tricky part for Cox here, now he can't rotate it. Ratro White's going to be wide at the apex. Does he pick up the exit sausage curve?
Yeah.
Doesn't pick up the sausage curve. Gets the job done finally. 1.5 seconds up the road now, and now it's going to be trying for Seth Brown to see if he can settle in. Right underneath that rear bumper. Might be tapping out a little bit of a message. Was definitely contact at one point there.
Oh, geez. There's a lot of spots here. Cox, like there, through that turn 10 or 11, sorry, that left-hander into this arena section in the inner lap. He's not using a lot of the track, surprisingly. And now is he trying for the pits? I think he was trying for the pits there, Scott, and he's been tagged by Seth Brown. And it clips, it's clipped Christensen in the aftermath. Several cars dive straight to the pits, and no, he can't come to the pits without a penalty here, so he's going to have to carry on.
My word. And Smith made it to the pit lane, as did Brad Newman. So both of those cars got in, and that's smart from Newman as well. That's using your head because you're going to get held up by that incident no matter what. So you may as well, not sacrifice all the momentum. And that one's going to be looked at. And it's real tricky there, particularly when you've no indication that he's coming to the lane.
And to be honest, the biggest problem I have with what happened there, Scott, was the fact that didn't look all that different to the previous lap where he didn't go into the pits.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a weird one there from Cox. He's not using the entry to the penultimate turn. And then just, as he tries to either get out of the way or just recover the car, Christensen picked the left-hand side of the road, which is where Cox's car was pointed in the aftermath of it all. So spun and now out of, just lost time. Runs P10 on the road to Christensen, but, oh man. You can see there, in fact, Caleb Hyde's well clear of him now. It's the tune of about, 7 seconds lost on that lap after the contact there. But yeah, because I was just going to say, it all started there at turn 10. Cox, in giving space to Ratro White, he actually was way slow on the apex of the corner for some reason, just ultra conservative there. And as a result, it didn't work one bit. And then super conservative through turn 11 and just bottled everything up through that final sector. As, the 7 drivers who have stayed out of trouble, Deeth, Burst, Capel, Sproul, Maloney, Ellis, and Ratro and White carry on. Seth Brown will respond with a pit stop here on this one and come into the pits. We've also got Simon Cox and Jacob O'Reilly both coming to the pit lane this time by as well. Caleb Hyde's in between, joining him in the lane in the 92.
Yeah, interesting few moments in terms of that exchange, but how critical is it to be to get that pass done nice and early, because otherwise that was Zach Rattrey White into the back of Simon Cox instead of teammate. So, it's super, super important to get that job done and get that move done. And now think about it in the back of your mind. Well, Jake Maloney could have been there absolutely if he didn't get the pass done, as could have Stuart Ellis. So, there's a number of drivers that just by getting that move done, they've put themselves in a really good spot. Now Newman is really, really close. He was definitely fuel saving, was Brad Newman.
Well, let's have a look at the numbers versus Seth Brown. The pit stop time apparently practically identical from what I can see at about 14.8 versus 14.6. You can see 14.5, 14.3. So the margins there, they check out. Slightly different on the overlays there. So got those on screen, but the pit transit time also identical. So it actually says to me Newman actually a little better through the whole cycle of the pits, and definitely has made an advantage. As we see here, Hyde's now got Zach Smith directly in behind. Those two drivers taking a little less fuel than the cars ahead. Marino Morales got out in between Hydes and Newman. So we've got 5 cars in a row there. These are the leaders will come into the pit so far. Dylan Burst from P2, though, will be our first car from the front of the field to pull into the pits this time, followed in by Capel as well, along with Maloney in the 29 Mercedes 2.
So that sort of says we've sort of hit maximum fuel range because now everyone's sort of coming in. The fact that Sproul and Deeth have continued on basically says they've been fuel saving this whole time, or perhaps just driving that little bit different, a little bit easier, you know, in terms of things. So the bulk of the field now coming down, and keep an eye on those pit stop times. Burst was only a 14.2, Capel 13.8.
Not too shocking there from Capel that he's probably been a little feather-footed as being told, and yeah, can see it. Rough stop for Jake Maloney. According to our data, yeah, 21 seconds. Has he put had 2 tires ticked or something like that in the Mercedes? Because that would be the only explanation for going that long, because the car won't have burned that much more fuel, even though he was running relatively clean air, although he was not too far off as Sam Sproul before the pit cycle.
Does
Definitely a setback.
Left side tires, Dan?
Maybe. That is what I would suspect, rather than over-fueling the car. Maybe Maloney wanted either fresh tyres on one side, or he's gone for, say, fresh rears. Or fresh fronts.
It'd be fresh fronts. The only 2 interactions there would be either fresh fronts or fresh lefts.
Well, here's a confirmation. If that car goes up on the jacks, he's taking tyres. And lo and behold, it's up on the jacks. So, there's your answer. Maloney taking 2. I mean, look, rears could be an option, but then again, you're right. Cold rears could be a bit dicey. The problem is in some other categories that I'm been racing in and around, cold fronts have been a particularly nasty option to pick because you then lose all of your grip for corner entry and high-speed turns as well. Whereas if you have colder rears, you're more worried about your traction and a bit of instability at higher speeds versus, say, having a plow.
The left round here take an absolute whacking in terms of the tyre wear. So,
indeed, you're not wrong. Left front, obviously, it will be abused. Left rear as well, you're leaning on it a lot. Sproul comes out of the pits. He gets back out where he was in behind Capel. Racho White, there we go, is going to cycle back. Christensen coming out now. And unfortunately for him, will cycle back in between or ahead of Danny Davidson, it looks like. Yeah, comfortably ahead of Danny Davidson there, as it turns out. So will be P13 once again for the number 5 driver. Ferrari. But cycles complete in the pits. Cody Deeth now clear by 5.7 seconds. In fact, we have to watch out for Cody Deeth here, Scott. If we could actually even get that back up on screen, if we could, Jay, comparing the pit times. Have a look at that there for Deeth in terms of stationary time. And if we can maybe get Burst in comparison.
So he's been fuel saving the whole time whilst leading the race.
Now being reminded it was an extra lap obviously done by Deeth relative to Burst, which would suggest perhaps, yes, that being pretty fuel efficient in that landing despite pulling a margin in the process. And yeah, unfortunately for Seth Brown, we've got him on screen here. The reason being that he's been deemed at fault for the contact with Simon Cox that then triggered additional contact there for Jamie Christensen with 64 of Cox. So 10-second post-race penalty right now will practically revert them, but Simon Cox will need to find a couple or 2, nearly 3 seconds to completely turn that one around at this stage. We'll have to see if he can do it with 13 minutes left on the clock here in the feature.
Yeah, Seth will drop though from 7th down to about 13th, 14th, so that's sort of relatively ruining his race in terms of things. That's tough. That is really, really tough, because unless you've got some sort of indication that someone's coming to the lane, like at Hockenheim, it's disgustingly difficult to predict that they're going to do that, particularly with the lines. So, yeah, it is what it is. He'll wear it, he'll apologise post-race, but at the same time he'll be sitting there going, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a rough roll of the dice, but I guess at the same time, yeah, sort of like, yeah, is the responsibility on the driver who's coming into the pits to protect their rear end, or is it the responsibility of the driver who's planning to stay out on the track to be able to gauge what's happening in front of them there? And looks like Race Control have gone with the latter of those options.
Once they make contact, absolutely you've got to give a penalty. I don't see any world where Seth avoids a penalty there in that situation. But at the same time, I think you're right. Like, it's the other point that you make. If you're coming into the pit lane, why would you want to get run over? Your race is ruined, right? So, something that you can do, jump on the radio to someone, put a message, do anything that you possibly can to avoid that situation happening. And, yep, I mean, there was no warning. Absolutely no warning. That's the key.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to keep beating the same drum, but I did notice when we watched Simon Cox in that battle pack the lap prior, he did practically the same line. And to the point where I literally thought he was coming into the pits a lap earlier than he actually did, or attempted to at least. So a bit of that too, where the pattern appeared to be the case that he wasn't going for the pits necessarily until all of a sudden he was slower again. Lo and behold, there he was trying for the pits. So, yeah, maybe it could have been a lesser penalty perhaps, but nevertheless, it's not our place to question the decision.
I'm fine with the penalty. Yeah, it's running a guy over. Penalty's totally fine. The blinkers would be my only other thing. Wish we'd have blinkers in iRacing.
That's true. That would be the final touch. It's like the cars have them. Let's make that a control option. We can do that here. But nevertheless, we'll talk about that stuff later. We've got some racing on track to worry about here, such as Jake Maloney looking to come back through the field. He was sitting P5 before the pit stop cycle began, and now back in P9 as he is all over the back end of Brad Newman. Braking performance of the Mercedes extremely strong there on that occasion into the hairpin, and surely helped by some fresher tyres. I think gets a nice bit of acceleration advantage, it seems, and well, building speed nicely in that, even that little short shoot run to the Mercedes arena here. So definitely watch out for Maloney over the course of the race. As we go to next of our replays here is Zach Smith up the inside of Caleb Hyde. Scott, although that's a bit hot from the 25, and Caleb says, I'll most happily have that one back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for making my job easy, is basically what Caleb Hydes was saying. See you later, son, as he goes back on through. But have a look at the pace from Maloney. On the last lap by, there was actually only one car on track that was actually faster than it was Cody Death. So he's got supreme pace right now in terms of things. The difficulty is the difficulty of the overtake. He's close enough to Newman that this time by he could, I would lunge if I'm in his shoes already. That's the first thing that I'm thinking about. Newman carries so much speed through turn 1. Now he's got to be accurate down here at turn 2, set it up. Seth's a little bit slow. Remember, Seth's got a 10-second post-race penalty, so this means nothing to him. So I wonder how hard he'll fight it. That may change the context of that decision. And the other thing to keep in the back of your mind, how much love is there between TTR and Lobs Esports? None.
Yeah, don't need reminding here, but here we go. Maloney's got the draft. Oh, there we go. Yep. There's the example of no love. Newman runs him all the way to the line, and he goes so deep on defense. He actually gets into Seth Brown. Maloney's going to get 2 for 1 here if he gets enough drive off the turn. And not quite. They have to give space to Brown to rejoin the circuit. He got pushed that deep into the turn. So that looks like it's 1 spot gain for Maloney, but he gets the grass through the apex of turn 7. That sacrifices his run in, and then, Newman trying to get the inside at turn 8 there means that Brown and Maloney both give space, and that's only 1 spot taken. But man, there we go. That was defending all the way to the white line, if temporarily. And Brown actually looked kind of lucky to get away with that one. But in saying that, there we go. Newman with the lunge, Scott. And there go Maloney. Actually parks it up there and says no more of that. Thank you very much. And we'll attempt to now drive away with the Mercedes grunt on the bottom end.
That was late. That was super late from Newman, and cheeky between the two. Think about the context of that move. Is what you've got to remember is that these guys go racing in supercars, right? They're used to going racing in supercars, and the teams don't like each other. Don't like each other one skerrick. They respect each other's talents, but in terms of what each other thinks about their racecraft, there is no love lost between them. And I have seen that play out on so many different occasions. And now when you take that outside of a supercar, in a car where you kind of don't really bang doors all that much, it just changes the nature of that relationship, because they're used to banging doors. They're comfortable, they're confident in doing it. I always knew Newman was going to block him. There's no way Brad Newman doesn't block him.
Steph Brown for a second went for a bit of a block there on Maloney, but almost, again, just better braking performance from the 29 TTR car. And I guess, yeah, with the other thing is, of course, with Seth Brown. That time penalty for him. He can't really afford to fight this too much. If Maloney's got the pace, he needs to let the 29 go and try and follow as best he can. Although Maloney a little deep in there at turn 8, nearly compromises his run out, but then able to get a bit further across to open up turn 10. And while all of that's been happening, after a lap, Newman decides to call it into race control and requests a review as to whether it was a brake check here at turn 12 on the last lap.
I was about to say, I'm glad you heard that, because I heard that and I'm sitting here going, cheeky, but it was cheeky from Newman to be trying. There was no way Brad Newman was getting that move done, so he had no right being in the position that he was in. It is what it is.
Well, there wasn't too much contact in the grand scheme of things. You would think that should be
Watch the brake light.
Let the dust settle. Yeah, of course, the brake lights will tell us. We've got a moment here to check it out on another of our Burling Motor Group replays here tonight. And so, yeah, it is ambitious to say the least. And yeah, Maloney just holds the brakes on that a little bit longer than necessary. Doesn't end up hurting him all that much and just completely stalls Newman's momentum in his tracks. I think, to be honest, if Newman's going to go for the ultra late lunge and threaten something there, for me, it's within fair game that Maloney holds the brakes into the apex there to just stall Newman's run out of the turn.
Well, it's not even that, Dan. Did you actually see the attitude of Maloney's car right at that last possible moment? There was a little wiggle in the rear end, and he stabilized it with the brakes. So it's actually not a brake check in that thinking of things, but you can see why Newman thought it was a brake check. I'll put it that way. I think he's got a right to certainly put the hand up and say, I want that looked at, and. Yeah, I also don't think there's anything in it at the same time. It's one of those ones where you say, I want it looked at. Oh, there's nothing in it. No worries, play on.
Well, whether the no worries is actually a part of the conversation in this context, as you've been discussing, as much as I agree. Yeah, the general context there. Yeah, but nevertheless, it now releases Maloney up to P7. So need to try and find. The only problem is he would have to find in the order of 8 seconds to get back to P5. See what else is next up the road, and it's about 3 and a bit seconds to him. There you go, 3.333 in a sense. Oh, 3's all around. So how about there? Lost a second in fighting with Brown and Newman, but he still gained 0.3 on the lap where he clears. Let's see here as the comparison should fire up in a second for lap 24, because Ellis actually did a little bit of improvement. So yeah, the improvement from Ellis, and Maloney still having to clear Seth Brown. Only a slight improvement in his favour on that particular lap at the end of it all there.
I reckon he's actually cooked the tyres. Because that lap, I was watching the lap from Jake Maloney, and it actually looked quite smooth and quite accurate, quite quick. But at the same time, the pace just wasn't there. So I think he's overheated the fronts.
That's entirely possible too. There's certainly a lot of driving it in deep to make those passes stick. And yeah. It'll be one to watch out for. Well, speaking of watching out for, we've got this battle here just outside the 10 as Caleb Hyde's trying to set up Zachary Smith in front of him, and Jamie Christensen on a little bit of a more conventional entry to the hairpin there. Gives the 92 a bit of a tap in the gearbox. These two have been going back and forth, and then there's contact in the side there as Hyde tries to get past Smith. Then, oh no! Contact spins the 92, and Christensen will get 2 for 1 as a result of that one there through turn 10. Watch the rejoin here as he comes out into a pack with Danny Davidson and Simon Cox. Does Caleb Hydes. Now down in 14th place for him, unfortunately.
15th.
Yeah, made that 15th. Oh.
Well, I don't know about you, Dan. But I feel like there's a good 30 cars out there tonight. Might only be 20, but...
They fanned out, yes, but you're not wrong. We're definitely getting another... Here's what it is, Christian, yeah. Caleb trying to get the over-under on the 25 AVR Porsche. Didn't quite work out for him. Then a little love tap there. We might need to look again. But it looked like to me for a moment that it was just a case of Hyde's not leaving room for Smith here. Gets into the side of the fender then, gets ahead of him, but he's not clear.
He's come across to cover it, and he's tracked him all the way to the edge of the track, and Zach Smith's got a responsibility to be there. I mean, if he backs out from there, you're not going racing. He's still got significant overlap. That's a curious one. That's a head scratcher from Hydes.
And I think just maybe a case of trying to desperately get the job done and maybe force something. Yeah, that wasn't on in that instance. In the case of, well, tried to get... Oh, Davidson's gotten loose with the hairpin, and now that's gone the 755 around. Now, just double check that was all by his lonesome. I'm pretty certain it was. Yeah, the car's hooked on the curb, but then it's Constantine and then caused front to rear contact for a couple of those guys in that group. By the meantime, Cody Death has checked out at the front. He's just clear of that there. So we are going to go to 28 laps. 2 more to go there at the line for our race leader as the rest of the field streaks on through further behind. And yeah, looking like it's stabilized for drivers like Stuart Ellis.
No,
and those we're being told in the background, and yet can see it. I'll leave it to you, Scott, to deliver the bad news.
He's going to have to come to the pit lane because he's hit the incident point limit, so that'll be a drive-through penalty for Caleb Hydes. So if tripping over Zach Smith's Alpha Venturi car wasn't enough, he's nearly gotten his own penalty. He's nearly given himself his own penalty, really. Yeah,
self-inflicted there with Smith, and now yeah, just that little bit too close to the limits that were basically set out in that situation, and down the lane he will go. Trunnell's back out in his own air in P17, so definitely not a night to remember for 92. So we'll check back in with Brad Newman at the gearbox. Seth Brown now well cleared that 10-second gap back to, well, Simon Cox, it was 10 seconds back. Seth Brown's penalty, should it enact immediately, will drop him in behind O'Reilly in 13th place, but only just. So if they press on here, Brown might be able to hang on to P12 at the end of this race. And interesting. Yes, white flag in the air from Barney at the stand for Cody Death. Race control calling a warning and declaring black and white for unsportsmanlike driving for Jake Maloney there, Scotland. That definitely got your interest.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why they're doing it. What they're effectively saying by that is, hey, we saw it, we don't have enough to penalise you on, but we think it's cheeky, is what race control are doing by saying that.
Without a doubt. Well, one final circuit at the Hockenheim Ring, Baden-Württemberg, left for us to negotiate here. 4.57 kilometres is the distance of entry, and all of the drivers here in this pack are now absolutely flinging it over the turn 1 curb to try and push the gap. Cody Death has got 8.8 seconds to Dylan Burst. I don't think they're going to be under any concerns. He's made margin despite taking by having to take less fuel. Lachlan Capel will be a pretty comfortable third by the looks of things. Sam Sprout and Zach Rattray White to round out top 5 as they run half a lap to go in this one. Stuart Ellis also looking safe for now in P6. And Maloney looking like P7 will be the best he can do at this stage. But now I've got this fight here. It's our first fight on the road, it seems. Meanwhile, Smith and Christensen. Close, but they end up single file still. So we've got this fight on screen and the one ahead between Brown and Newman. Morella's also kind of in it as well, if anything happens up the road. But here we go. Smith again forces the issue, gets on the curb. He can't possibly get the run as a result.
Yeah, but it's going to be another win in the sprint race and another feature race win. The big question on everyone's lips isn't, oh, will Cody Death win another one? It's who will be the first person to take one away from him. In the meantime, though, Zach Smith has just got back by Jamie Christensen because Christensen went wide as they got down to the corner, and Christensen's hit the incident limit, which is why he's yielded finally.
Oh, no. And he's actually going to come and try and serve the penalty, but he can't serve the penalty, Scott. So, this is going to hurt him even more because he might even lose a spot on the road before he takes the flag. No, actually he won't, but he'll lose some time before the penalty kicks in because you have to get through the lane in its entirety to clear that black flag. There was some trouble for Lewis Greathead up at the hairpin, I think, on his own in that race. But yeah, once again, that is a complete sweep of round number 3 for Cody Death. And yeah, confirming for Lewis Greathead in number 12 machine. He went around all by his lonesome on the exit of the hairpin here. But we'll make it our final replay of the night here, Scott, thanks to Burling Motor Group. And unfortunately for him, that torque and traction control configuration of the Ferrari has not worked out in his favour there.
Yeah, no, but he's used his head and stayed there as long as he needed to. So he's lost a couple spots, but he's looked after everyone around him. And I think that's the key. Some nights you put your head in your hands and you just go, "I'm done with this. I no longer want to be in the sim. I want to get out as soon as possible." And that looked like one of those.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was the case. Well, the results now here on screen for the feature. Cody Death, leading at home by nearly 8.8 seconds at the line to Dylan Burse. Behind him in second, with Lock and Cable going to take our final podium spot for the feature tonight. Sam Sprout not too far behind, but P4 will have to be the best result there for the Blackout OPR driver. Zach Retro White, the first of a Vermilion Motorsports cars, home in P5 tonight. Stuart Ellis able to steer clear of the fight behind, will settle for P6. With Jake Maloney, the two-tyre strategy not working out for him, it seems. We'll have to settle for P7 in the feature, with Seth Brown in behind, although don't forget he will be knocked down the order by 10 seconds, and 29.463. Yes, that will push him back to P12. With Brad Newman therefore inheriting P8. Marina Morella going to inherit P9, not too far behind. And Zach Smith promoted to the top 10 spots. And you'll see there 39.330. For Seth Brown, he was 29.462, so there was not much in it. We're talking, a 10th and some change in that exchange of spots there, Scott.
Yeah, but Zach Smith from O'Reilly, from Cox, Davison, Hides, Greathead, Mitchell, Gardner, Christensen, and Sorono didn't take the start for our feature race as well. Look how far back through the field Christensen fell after that penalty on the final lap of the race too.
Yeah, it is a painful post-race penalty, that one. There's got a couple of cars limping their way around to finish, but I think we best turn to our post-race interviews and bring in the race winner once again. Cody Death, you are now 6 from 6 and make it 3 perfect rounds in this championship, and less fuel required than everyone else, and still able to pull away in the back half of the race. Congratulations once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I knew I could build a bit of a gap while still doing a bit of fuel saving, which I knew would help me at the end of the race. So yeah, it was all about just managing the tyres, managing the fuel, and just building a bit of a gap, making sure I'm not doing too many mistakes, and managed to bring it home.
And also looking at things, I mean, incident points tonight, obviously you mentioned it after the sprint race was a bit of a concern in some respects. Just looking at the number there, you ended up with 16 for the night. So you left a little bit of margin in case something shocking happened, but in the end, not much of a concern there. And we saw it further back in the pack, I guess, more so. Drivers really, say, pushing. Was it turn 1 you were sort of perhaps finding limits more? Or was there somewhere else in particular, once you sort of settled in, that perhaps you're also either just pushing it and finding the limits, or otherwise able to take some liberties?
It was really turn 1 and the little short shoot before the last corner. Like, the second last corner, the last corner, where the drag strip is. It's really easy to understeer a bit wide there and get an off track there. So that's where most of them came from.
Well, nevertheless, a comfortable win tonight. We are in the middle of a double header for the championships. We'll be back again next Saturday night and heading away from Europe to America with Sebring on the cards, and also expecting rain for the first time in this championship. So with the Sebring 12-hour just conducted, is there any preparation from that race that will be useful to you, or will you be going in with a fresh start for next week? And also with rain pitching on the horizon, how does that sort of change any preparation that you'll be doing when we come to next Saturday?
Luckily for me, last week, Sebring 12-hour had a fair bit of rain, so I got lots of practice there. So I don't think it's going to be too different conditions-wise to what it was in the 12-hour, but we'll see what happens. It should be good fun.
Well, indeed, we'll be looking out with great interest as to whether that shakes up the order at any respects. But, well, once again, you're the man to beat, and we'll see who can catch you next time out in that case. Before we let you go, who do you want to thank for another round win here in the ANZ Series GT3 National Championship?
I just want to thank Clips Esports, of course, 5-6 Sim Coaching, ANZ Series, Motorsport Australia, IMO Setups for, providing fairly balanced setups for the whole season. Just thank my parents as well.
Well, there we are. Cody D, thanks for chatting us once again, and congrats on a round win here tonight at the Hockenheim ring.
Thank you guys, have a good one.
And with that, I'll leave it to you, Scott, as we bring in Dylan Burse in second place tonight, and have that chat with him here now.
Mate, Dylan, I mean, you were playing a little bit of second fiddle to your teammate, but at the same time, nice and clean and clear at the front. Once lap one, at the end of lap one, sort of settled into a rhythm. It was just a relatively cruisy night. Happy to take 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always decent enough with rudder up. It's a bit annoying because I can't really do as much as I'd want to be able to do driving one-handed, but I mean, I can do as much as I can, and that was P2 this race, so it's not that bad. Sure, yeah, I would have loved to be with Deef and like bumping him away, but yeah, what do you do? What do you do?
How is the recovery process going, and how's the practice changed? Because obviously, I mean, doing racing single-handedly, is the other hand still attached to the wheel? How are you upshifting? How are you downshifting? You know, what changes have you had to go through over the last couple of weeks?
Oh, my right hand's just getting a big workout. I've got my left hand chilling down on my lap, so downshifting with a button on the steering wheel goes hard, and yeah, I mean, it's just quite hard to control compared to having another hand on the left, but yeah, what do you do? Self-inflicted error, so I deal with it.
In terms of things, mate, we're moving on to Sebring next week. Obviously, it's a ton of practice over the last couple of weeks with the iRacing Sebring 12 hour. How are you feeling in terms of comfort levels? And I get the feeling rain and single hand is probably going to be where the real difficulty comes into it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm out for the season due to recovery, so yeah, we'll be one-handing for the most of it. But yeah, I mean, it should be right. It'll be quite a lot lighter, which works nicely. But I mean, a lot of saves I'll have to catch, so that doesn't really go down too well. But I mean, apart from that, it shouldn't be too much different. So we just try and get a hopefully nice and easy second again. But I mean, we can always try and hope that something happens and get more. But who knows? Who knows? It's a little off yet.
And finally, mate, the floor is all yours to thank the sponsors that make it possible for you and the Eclipse Sim Sports team.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to thank Deef, of course, for showing up, getting a nice round clean up again, so that's sweet, seeing him up there. Caleb Hides for persisting on, even though he's had a rough night, but got on him for keep on going. But yeah, I mean, Damon Woods, 5-6 sim coaching. He's the reason we're all so fast, because he's so good, so yeah, that's pretty much it, thanks. And also ANZ for putting it on.
Mate, thank you very much for your time, and yeah, big old shout out to Damon Woods as well.
Yeah, Damon, what a lad.
How's the banter go in the coaching sessions as well? Because obviously he's got a little bit of a mouth, and you guys are all really relaxed. There's a lot of banter that floats around your team as well.
When I wasn't broken, I was coaching him, so. But yeah, we do what we do. We do what we do. Nah, he's good, lad. He's very good.
He's very good value. Very good value, mate.
Yeah,
thank you very much for your time. And
cheers,
we'll leave you with it.
Yeah, cheers, bro. Ladder, mate.
And finally, Dan, I think you've got third place finish tonight. Was in a rough battle throughout race number 1, but you're sitting with Lachlan Capel.
I am, thanks, Scott. Well, we saw you in round 1 a couple of weeks back, Lockie. It was a bit of a rough night out for you when we went to the Nürburgring to kick things off, at least in the opening heat. We missed you at the...
Is this a Porsche?
No, I didn't say it because it's a Porsche. Thank you, Scott.
Sorry, I had to get that in there.
Yeah, clearly you did. Well, we missed you with the Red Bull Ring for round 2, but back out once again and able to get some speed on the board, it seems here, Lockie. Just that one little moment at the start of race 1 that thankfully didn't end up with either yourself or Zach Ratcho White in the fence. That may have been the only one to worry about.
Yeah. Round 2, I didn't really feel the best. I had a bunch of uni assignments on, I couldn't make it, but round 3 went a lot better than expected. I had quite good pace, so I was happy with that. But as soon as I went to turn into turn 1, he turned in harder and we got glued. And yeah, somehow neither of us went into the fence, but then there was a bigger shunt behind, so I just kind of was able to keep bomb on Stuart Ellis in the middle of the race to try and set myself up with Deeth and Burst to just follow them through at race 2. And then race 2 went well. I just got the move done and then played tyre save game, which was very, very painful considering in the Porsche that left front basically was destroyed the entire race, so yeah.
I think, yeah, it's actually maybe a quick thing to bring up here for this one. Obviously, not quite got the raw pace of Cody or Dylan, it seems, tonight. But then again, one Audi, one Lamborghini, and one Porsche cars do have some slightly different characteristics. And you mentioned there that you're protecting the left front as best you could over the course of that 45-minute race. We even had Maloney take tyres, it seems, in his pit stop. Was that ever a consideration, given how much you said you're having to protect that left front tyre, or would you just commit to the protection and take the sort of the time loss on track in terms of relative to your peak performance?
I could have taken that left. I would have not taken just the left front. I would have taken both the left front or left rear to make it a little bit better, especially in the hairpin, because I couldn't figure the hairpin out. I don't know if I was getting the lock wrong. I was doing like 190 degrees, but I feel like I needed to do like a little bit more at the end. But I probably should have taken 2 tires, because a couple guys didn't seem to their pace to be a lot better. But I just kind of left it and hope it was fine, and I still managed to pull a large gap on Samuel, and I was sort of keeping up with first for a little bit at the start, so it turned out to be not that bad, but probably should have taken it if I really wanted to try, but honestly I don't think I would have had the pace anyway. It was kind of very equal with us 2, 3 and 4, with Deeth getting away at the front.
I mean, yeah, the gap certainly stabilised between the 3 of you there in their second, third, fourth position, as you said. So yeah, all in all, hopefully a sign there the setup BOP is working as intended here in this series. But we're back again next Saturday for round 4 of the championship. We head off to Sebring, the start of our tracks and races at America for this season, and also expecting some rain to be on the horizon for that event as well. And well, first of all, any expectations given a probable rain forecast in that case as to how that might change things up, or really a case of you're going to have to wait and find out come Saturday?
Ironically enough, this is quite funny at least. I won't probably get much practice in because I'm doing an IRL track day that day. But that track day is also supposed to be wet, which is quite going to be interesting. But to be fair, the tyres on my Mazda is nowhere near the tyres of a GT3 car, so it's not going to be very helpful at all. But I might do some laps. I mean, next week's pretty much a full sim week with this series, Scops, and GSRC Endurance at Suzuka, which are all meant to be wet for some of the race. So a lot of sim in next week, and then, yeah, try and see what sort of practice we can get in. But obviously take the Easter holidays to do some laps and feel okay. But other than that, I expect Porsche to be off the pace slightly, because I know the Sebring 12 hour and the Bot there, the Audi and the Lambo are very, very good around there, so the Porsche might struggle a little bit, but I'll just have to drive it and see how we go. If I'm being honest, the Porsche's quite good in the rain just because it's got the rear grip that a lot of cars seem to lack, but it is that front end that might have a little bit of lacking of the grip, which may also be a problem.
Well, then we'll see how it works out for you in that case. I should note, actually, you've got an extra week to prepare for Scops. It's not until the second weekend in April, not next weekend, so you're a little bit more free than you might have thought in that case.
That's
but we'll have to leave it there. You can focus on this series and GSRC, and maybe you see you pull a big couple of different cards. But yeah, good luck with that test drive. But have to wrap it up there tonight. So to walk away, I believe P3 for the round, because with the switch between yourself and Sam Sproul between the heat and the feature results, you should come out on top on points. Who do you want to thank for getting the job done here in the feature and for the night overall as well?
Just a big shout out to you guys and to put on the broadcast, and ANZ putting in the race, and Evolution said cheeky spot for the first half of the race and having a good giggle about what happened at turn 1. Yeah, other than that, everyone up the front for racing clean, and yeah, hopefully we'll see us continue in the next couple of.
Indeed. Well, thanks for chatting us with Lockie. That will have to do us there for the interview tonight, and that will have to wrap up the night basically for us as well. Here's Scott. As I said, it's our next double header of the season. We say goodbye to Europe, we say hello to America, and we expect a bit of rain on the horizon as well. Next Saturday night, the 6th of April, starting once again at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, the final time that our southern states are in daylight savings as well. We'll keep you updated on that one, obviously, come next week for that time zone change back to standard time to line up everything there. But, well, I don't think we'll see you again. Unfortunately, have Aaron Obersteller back in the commentary box to represent the ANZ Series side of the broadcast half. But just your general thoughts, what will you be looking forward to seeing from the field when we hit the asphalt and the concrete there at Sebring next week?
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit different. Driving, one of the key factors is, you know, fixed setup. Keep that in the back of your mind when we next go out in this series as well. Changeable conditions on a fixed setup are not the easiest. That is going to be one of the more tricky rounds of the season, and Sebring is very, very difficult at the best of times. Drivers will have the most practice for a wet round for Sebring, but still, it's adapting to that setup. It's never easy.
Indeed. Well, the first test of these setups in wet weather conditions, I would presume, but we'll have to wait and find out for that one. On behalf of us here at SimSpeed TV, Jay Kennedy on production, Scott Rankin joining us here in commentary box, to the organisers at the ANZ Series for this GT3 National Championship in partnership with Motorsport Australia Esports, and all the sponsors on screen: Burling Motor Group, Hymo Setups, Race Lab and Trophy Hub, plus First Take Photography. Big thank you all for watching along and supporting this series. My name is Danny Eamon, and thank you all. Have a good night. Have a good Easter Sunday tomorrow, wherever you are in the world celebrating that. And we'll see you back next Saturday for round 4 of this GT3 National Championship.